Good afternoon, councillors. Almighty God, we, the representatives of the citizens of the City of Brisbane, are assembled here to strive and care for the welfare of our city and all its people. Lord, we ask that you guide us in the decisions we make here today. Amen. Brisbane City Council acknowledges this country and its traditional custodians. We acknowledge and respect the spiritual relationship between traditional custodians and this country, which has inspired language, songs, dances, law and dreaming stories over many thousands of years. We pay respect to the elders, those who have passed into the dreaming, those here today, those of tomorrow. May we continue to peacefully walk together in gratitude, respect and kindness in caring for this country and one another. Please be seated. I declare the meeting open. I remind all councillors of your obligations to declare prescribed and or declarable conflicts of interest where relevant, and the requirement as such to remove yourself from the council chamber for debate and voting where applicable. Are there any apologies? Councillor Cassidy.
Thanks, Chair. I move that Councillors Cook and Griffiths be granted a leave of absence for today's meeting.
The second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Councillor Cassidy and seconded by Councillor Strunk that Councillors Cook and Griffiths be granted leave of absence from today's meetings. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Further apologies?
Mr Chair, I advise that Councillor Adams will be absent today, and I move that she be granted a leave of absence from the meeting. Seconded.
Thank you. It has been moved by Councillor Landers and seconded by Councillor Hutton that Councillor Adams be granted leave of absence from today's meeting. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. Councillors, we have a public participant today, Mr Yaz Matbouli, who has requested an opportunity to address the Council on the story and vision of serving our people. Clerks, can Mr Matbouli be brought into the chamber, please? Oh, with a prop on wheels. Thank you, Mr Matbouli. You'll have 5 minutes to for your address once you start, and a council will respond to you. Please, when you start, when you press the button.
Mr Chair, Lord Mayor and councillors, thank you for your time and for giving us the opportunity to present to you here today. On behalf of Serving Our People, we thank the Council, Lord Mayor Adrian Schooner and Lady Mayoress Nina Schooner for the continuous support and recognition. In March 2020, I founded Serving Our People as a direct response to the pandemic, to serve and to engage in a discourse on social action. As thousands of people experienced the ripple effects of social isolation on their health, economics and mobility, the voices of destitution and desperation grew louder. Our local charity partners had the will but not the means to deliver much needed goods. This lack of logistics led to a backlog and the problem kept compounding. The result was a bottleneck, with donors waiting to have goods collected, warehouses stockpiling from floor to ceiling, and most importantly, longer delays before goods could reach recipients, doing it tough. Our team of volunteers pulled our heads and hearts to redress this, using their own vehicles to assist the local charities and direct recipients with deliveries. Our Serving Our People reputation gained greater prominence on the streets of Brisbane, delivering good news and hope to the most disadvantaged people. This had a snowball effect. As more volunteer drivers signed up and more goods were donated in response to cries for help, our website and helpline accepted increasing details about friends in need. Then we did something unprecedented. We offered and expedited free and express deliveries. Instead of waiting weeks, we coordinated our fleet to deliver within a couple of hours. The deliveries included vital medicine, baby products, groceries, fresh meals, clothes, and furniture. We then created a mobile vaccination unit to help vaccinate the most vulnerable in our community, even in the remote areas. The feedback and emotions were overwhelming for so many people in despair. Mother Nature came through and delivered a wave of tragedy with floods raging through southeast Queensland and northern New South Wales. With our organisational structure and advanced procedures in place, Serving Our People was able to mobilise immediately, similarly to an emergency relief organisation, and bring the same support we had come known to thousands more Australians. We have also been able to mobilise housing support for homeless people, seeing them placed in humane housing within 48 hours of intervention, and supplied with food, personal care items, clothing, and furniture. Serving Our People helps anyone in dire straits, regardless of background, religion, or ethnicity. From our neighbours right here in Australia to displaced Ukrainian refugees building new home in our country, and all ages from infants to the elderly. So far, we have supported over 52,000 recipients with over 1,200 volunteers. We have delivered 25,000 meals a year direct from restaurants to hungry Queenslanders and created 5 full-time jobs. We have been dubbed as Australia's fastest growing charity. Some have described us as an Uber free-like service in the charity sector and the go-to lifeline for charity deliveries. While philanthropic foundations and corporate businesses have stepped up to support our mission, we now need your support to continue. First, we need to construct more Serving Our People donation boxes, Exhibit A. These are strategically positioned at the checkouts of major supermarkets where the local community can contribute by donating non-perishable goods on their way out. Those donation boxes then get delivered to our recipients who are elderly, young single mothers, people with a disability, people experiencing poverty, and homeless friends. We know that there are more people sleeping rough on benches and under bridges, compounded by the rising cost of living. Each donation box feeds 40 families per week. So that's feeding over 2,000 people per box per year. Imagine what dozens of these boxes throughout Brisbane would do. We now seek council support to construct and distribute enough donation boxes to see them in leading supermarkets across Brisbane, and one in each council ward in the Brisbane area. We apply for financial support to grow our physical, technological, and human capacity, but we know that some funds are available at council's discretion or by invitation only, and to that we say, yes, please. Invite us to your table so we can share our vision to build a Serving Our People hub in the heart of Brisbane, where it will include a free supermarket to feed struggling households. The hub will also serve as the multi-purpose venue to train our volunteers, host events like the Christmas lunch for the homeless, and be used as a warehousing facility to fulfill the current need. As a final note, we'd love your support in the following areas: making Serving Our People as an emergency relief organization, creating a Brisbane hub with a free supermarket, placement of donation boxes in all the wards, and introduction to leading supermarkets. We'd love the opportunity to serve our community together. Thank you for your loving our community.
Thank you. Mr Matt-Burley, your time has expired. Is there somebody responding? Councillor Howard.
Well, thank you very much for that presentation, Mr Matt-Burley. My name's Vicky Howard. I'm the Civic Cabinet Chair for Communities, and so all that you have talked about are the things that we've experienced over the last couple of years, really. And as you say, with the pandemic arriving, there have been so many wonderful people, such as yourself and Serving Our People, who have done an amazing job right across Brisbane. And we congratulate you and we thank you very much for all that you have done. The Schrinner Council is fully committed to building an inclusive and a connected city, and we deeply value the work that charities and not-for-profit organisations like Serving Our People do to help those in need across Brisbane. I know that you've held a couple of fundraisers right here in this beautiful City Hall, and that our Lord Mayor and Lady Mayoress were there, and I know how much our Lady Mayoress is keen and committed to the type of work that you're doing, so really appreciate that you have done that. thank you for the prop. That's really great that we've been able to see what it is that you would like us to do. Look, I think it's something that every councillor in this chamber would like to help you with. So I think it's something that we probably just need to meet and have a chat about to see just what we can do in that space. As I said, our portfolio deals with a lot of different organisations right across Brisbane, and it is something that I think that we would all be very willing to have a chat to see what we can do to support you in that. So again, wish you every success in what you're doing. Look forward to working with you, and thank you very much for speaking to us today. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in, Mr Mabuli. We'll allow you to leave the chamber first before we continue with your little car. Thank you, councillors. Are there any questions of the Lord Mayor or Civic Cabinet Chair of any of the standing committees? Councillor Mackay.
Thank you, Chair. My question is to the Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, 2 weeks ago, the state government released their report into the February floods. Could you please update the chamber on some of the commentary around the IGEM report, including what actually happened when it came to alerts?
Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mackay. I know this is something you're very interested in as one of the many flood-affected councillors or flood-affected ward councillors across the city. Now, it was of great interest that we saw a couple of weeks ago the IGEM report released, because we are already into the next storm season after the February floods. And we had rightly been concerned that learnings from the flood at all levels of government needed to be made within appropriate time so that they could be actioned as we go into another storm season. And so I was delighted to see that the report was actually released, not before time. I would point out, Councillor Mackay, that our own report was dealt with very expeditiously to make sure that we could get on with the job of implementing recommendations. And so we made sure that the report timeframe gave us plenty of time to get on with the job. And so in May, former Governor and Chief Justice Paul de Jersey released his report with 37 recommendations, all of which we are actioning, and a majority of which we have completed at this point in time. And so we got on with it, and we were waiting to see what was happening with the state's report. Now, it was interesting because a number of months ago, one particular minister in the state government had flagged that he sought to politicise the flood response. And in fact, he spoke in Parliament effectively with a veiled threat against Brisbane City Council. And it was quite clear that his intent was to politicise this matter, which is really disappointing, because we know that in any natural disaster events, there are always things that could have been done better. There are always things that could be improved. And our responsibility is to make sure that we respond better and better each time and learn the lessons. And so, first of all, leaving this report so long is a concern, and one that we have raised concerns about. And in fact, just recently when I raised my own concerns about where the report is, surprise, surprise, the very next day the IGEM report was released. And why was it released? Because
Councillor Johnston, please.
It had been
Councillor Johnston, enough.
It had been sitting on the minister's desk for 6 to 7 weeks. 6 to 7 weeks. And then he was shamed into releasing it when we spoke out and said, what is happening? This alert system is broken. It needs to be fixed. We need to get on with it. And then magically, the day after, we saw this report released. Now, unlike some councillors in this room, I have actually read the IGEM report. I have read it in detail. And one of the things that you will see very clearly when you read the report is that what the IGEM report says and what Minister Ryan says are two entirely different things. Minister Ryan came good with his threat to politicise this matter, and it is very disappointing. A minister that is responsible for our emergency services and police seeking to politicise a natural disaster is incredibly disappointing. But the reality is this. What did the report say about the alert system? The emergency alert system and national system funded by the federal government and operated by state governments. That is what we are talking about here. The system failed. The system was not fit for purpose.
Councillor
the system
Johnston.
got overloaded.
Councillor
And
Johnston.
the system, which is designed to get messages, well, it was theoretically designed to get messages quickly to people in the community, took, in the February floods, up to 14 hours to deliver messages. That is a serious challenge that needs to be fixed. We said it immediately after the February flood. It was said again in May when former Governor de Jersey released his review. And it was confirmed in the IGEM report that this system needs to be fixed. And the ultimate example of the fact that this system needs to be fixed is what happened on the weekend when we used the system to send out some advice to residents that the Bureau had predicted up to 150 millimetres of rain. Now, we are fortunate that that rain did not come in Brisbane, but it came in other areas. We got an average of 55 millimetres in Brisbane, so we were very fortunate. But heavy amounts of rain fell in other areas around us, and so it was the right thing to do to use that system. And what happened? We were the only council in the queue. We were the first council to send a message. There was no one ahead of us in the queue. This system, under ideal conditions, with no one else in the queue,
Lord Mayor,
took
your time
6 to 7 hours to
has
reach
expired.
residents.
Further questions? Councillor Cassidy.
Thanks very much, Chair. Lord Mayor, we've found out that you waited until Sunday the 27th of February to request a flood warning to be sent to residents who were facing imminent danger. This message arrived after every single one of those suburban Brisbane residents had already been flooded from creek and flash flooding. You requested the message after residents had flooded. Do you regret this delay, Lord Mayor?
Lord Mayor.
Well, Councillor Cassidy, unfortunately it appears you're taking the same tack as Minister Ryan and choosing to play politics with a natural disaster. Now, to be very clear about the timeline of events here, Saturday was the day that the leader of this state got up and told the community there is no cause for concern. Saturday was that day. Now, on Saturday evening, I was in fact the first elected representative in Queensland to warn that there's potential flooding coming. And that illustrates just how quickly the situation continued to evolve and change. It was a rapidly evolving situation. And what we saw is throughout those several days of rain, the Bureau was updating their weather advice, and it was getting worse and worse and worse progressively over hours. There were multiple changes to the weather advice, and every time the Bureau put out a new advice, in fact, in reality, the amount of rain that fell exceeded that Bureau advice. So not even the Bureau's changing predictions were correct. So this was a really rapidly evolving situation. On the Saturday, the Premier had said there is no cause for concern. By the Saturday evening, the situation was continuing to evolve, and we started to warn people that there's potential flooding coming. Now, we had started sending our own alert messages on the Thursday. Not the Saturday, not the Sunday, but on the Thursday. Right, and in fact, at the point when the rain started falling and there was predictions that rain was coming, we started sending alerts. And our system,
Councillor Johnston.
our severe weather alert system, which is the council system as opposed to the national system, gets to people instantaneously. And in fact, we've been tracking this system very clearly. It gets to people usually within a couple of minutes of the alert going out, within minutes. Yet the state-controlled system takes anywhere from 6 hours to 14 hours to reach the people of Brisbane. And we have found out since...
Point of order.
There is
Point
an
of order
important...
to you, Councillor Cassidy.
Yeah, just on relevance, I asked a very simple question of the Lord Mayor, Chair, whether he regretted delaying requesting a message until Sunday the 27th of February after residents had flooded, whether you could bring him back to that part of the question. Does he have any
You're debating
regret?
the question. I believe the Lord Mayor is relevant to the question asked.
So we started sending out messages on the Thursday. So we acted really quickly. We used the technology that we had within our control, and that technology worked. That technology got to people really quickly.
Councillor Cassidy, please. Councillor Cassidy. Councillor Cassidy, please.
And what we saw is a situation where the state-controlled federal system got overloaded really quickly and became essentially worthless. The National Emergency Alert System became worthless in the 2022 floods because it was not fit for purpose and it took too long. This system was designed in response to bushfires in regional towns and communities. It can deal with a small number of people. It sends out messages in lots of 50 to 100,000. And in Brisbane, the largest city council area in Australia, by a factor of more than 2 compared to the next biggest council, this system was quite clearly not designed to deal with flooding in a city like Brisbane. And so we've been warning about this since February. Governor De Jersey warned about it in May. When the IGEM report came out just a couple of weeks ago, it confirmed that the system was broken and needed to be fixed. Yet Councillor Cassidy and Minister Ryan, all they can do is play politics. We have this ridiculous situation where the minister got up yesterday and tried to defend his broken system. He tried to defend and say that it was okay that it took 6 hours to reach Brisbane residents on the weekend. This is unacceptable. I again make the plea to Minister Ryan, please. This is not the time for politics. This is the time to get on, work together and fix this broken system. We do not know when we will need to use this system again. Let's learn from what happened in February. Let's learn from what happened on the weekend, and let's fix this system together so that the residents of Brisbane can be better informed in a time of need.
Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Hammond.
Thank you, Mr Chair. My question is to the Chair of the City Planning and Suburban Renewal Committee, Councillor Allen. Councillor Allen, during the budget debate, Councillor Griffiths was outraged when we said that he didn't support the construction of new homes. But during the recess, we found Councillor Griffiths campaigning against the future construction of new homes. Can you please update the Chamber of Labor's hypocrisy on the housing in Brisbane?
Councillor Allen. Councillor Johnston, please cease interjecting.
Thank you, Mr
Councillor
Chair.
Allen, you have the floor.
And through you, thank you, Councillor Hammond, for the question. It was during the budget debate that the Lord Mayor made a general statement in regard to the South East Queensland Regional Plan and commented that Labor, Greens and independent councillors continue to actively oppose the construction of new homes in their areas. What the Lord Mayor was highlighting was that the Labor opposition...
Councillor Strunk. Councillor Strunk, enough.
Yep. What the Lord Mayor was highlighting was that the Labor opposition had abstained, not even voted against the recent 8 Mile Plains neighbourhood plan. And so outraged was Councillor Griffiths by the comments that he jumped out of his seat wanting the Lord Mayor to withdraw his comments as they were misleading and not true. But what is misleading are the mistruths Councillor Griffiths continues to spin, including at a recent public meeting held a few weeks back on the draft Nathan Salisbury Maruka neighbourhood plan. A public meeting, one which he called, and Councillor Cassidy was there too, as part of the deception. And his own flyer to the event outlined mistruth after mistruth after mistruth. Mr Chair, I don't know where to begin in addressing these.
Councillor Johnston, enough.
But let's start with the neighbourhood planning process. This particular neighbourhood plan is still in early draft form and we are about halfway through the process. It is also an area that does not appear to have seen any updates to the planning provisions for roughly 20 years. And give or take a few years, this is also the same amount of time Councillor Griffiths has been the local councillor. The draft strategy, and I point out it was a draft strategy, not the plan, was released last year for community feedback. Council officers are currently reviewing public feedback in preparation of releasing a draft neighbourhood plan for further community consultation. Yes, I appreciate this is a lengthy process, but we are committed to ensuring that research is thorough and multiple community consultation opportunities are provided for. As part of the draft strategy release, there were maps that stated Council would investigate and update character protections within the study area. I certainly don't recall the draft strategy stating we were going to remove protections on over 200 homes, and Councillor Griffiths has repeatedly and incorrectly stated this. Interestingly, back in August in this very chamber, Councillor Griffiths spoke to and voted in favour of the temporary local planning instrument for the Maruka War Workers Housing Estate, a TLPI that will see protection granted to 180 properties. On this basis alone, he knows very well that Council is in the process of protecting the local heritage within his precinct and his ward.
Excuse me, Councillor Allen. Councillor Johnston, I've informally warned you now on no fewer than 8 occasions. I'm happy to move to the formals and ask that you cease interjecting. This is your first formal warning.
Another mistruth was that Council voted against maintaining existing character protections in the Nathan Salisbury Maruka neighbourhood plan area. This is absolutely absurd, and again it shows that Councillor Griffiths has limited understanding of the neighbourhood planning process. We did not vote against it, we just said we wouldn't make a decision until we had heard from members of the community through the next round of consultation. It would be inappropriate to even predict or anticipate the outcome of the neighbourhood planning process prior to further research being undertaken and stakeholder and community input sought. As to Councillor Griffiths' comment that Council refused to do public meetings with residents, again, more mistruths and comments that are offensive to Council's strategic planning team. The team held 3 community planning meetings in 2019, a further 3 information sessions in 2021, and of those meetings, 272 people attended. Furthermore, during this consultation phase in 2021, Council received 271 comments via email, over 300 comments on an interactive map and 1,188 completed surveys. So plenty of community input. Now, ultimately, Councillor Cassidy and Councillor Griffiths have been spinning quite a lot of mistruths. They've been putting a lot of misinformation out into the marketplace. We are currently awaiting the state government's review of the South East Queensland Regional Plan. So ultimately, I believe that the approach that we've taken is consistent with our neighbourhood planning process, and Councillor Griffiths and Councillor Cassidy really need to get on board and stop the misinformation.
Allen, your time has expired. Further questions? Councillor Sri Ranganathan.
Thanks, Chair. My question's to the Mayor. It's not a trick question. I hope you'll engage with it seriously. Lord Mayor, you've previously noted that if we were to prevent private property developers constructing new housing on flood-prone land, that this would reduce the supply of available land for housing across the city and make it harder to deliver housing stock for a growing population. But the reality is that right now, across our city, there are many corridors and precincts that have already been rezoned for high-density development, such as Ipswich Road, along parts of Lutwich Road and Gympie Road, etc. So my question is, do you accept the premise that if we made it harder for developers to build on flood-prone land, they would be more likely to redirect investment and build on in other parts of the city that have already been rezoned for new development and aren't vulnerable to flooding?
Lord Mayor.
Well, thank you for the question, Councillor Sri Ranganathan. The premise here that that if we make it harder for developers to build in flood-prone areas is an interesting question, because what we do at the moment is if an area is flood prone but has been previously developed in the past, i.e. before modern planning requirements came into existence, and there are significant areas of the city where that is the case, that premise that we are somehow making it harder, I would simply say we're requiring standards that take into account the flood factors on the property. We already do that, and we've continued to upgrade those requirements progressively over the years. There were changes made to our planning framework in 1974, or after 1974 floods. There were further changes that have been made following the 2011 floods, and there will be changes made further after the 2022 flood. So we're continuing to put additional requirements on new buildings. So I guess if that's consistent with the premise that he's saying, well then that's what we're doing. But I think the debate has simply been, we can't just say that you can't build on a site that already has a home or a building or a business and that someone owns. Unless you're prepared to actually buy every single one of those sites and compensate the owner for the loss of their asset and investment and their loss of their property, then I don't see how we can stop people building something on a site that they own, that already has a building on it, in most cases, because that would take out a significant percentage of the entire city. Now, Brisbane was built on a floodplain, and in fact, we've seen examples of significant parts of entire suburbs that do get flooded. The suburb of Rockley is one example, but there are other suburbs such as Fairfield where significant sections of the entire suburb have some level of flood risk. And to simply say you can't do anything in Rockley or you can't build anything in Fairfield is not a realistic prospect. Unless we suddenly come upon billions of dollars to buy all of these properties, which we simply don't have, you start to add up the cost to ratepayers or the cost to government of doing this, and it becomes quickly unfeasible. And so we do put requirements on properties that may have a flood risk. We already do, and they continue to get more and more stringent as we take into account events that have happened. And it's interesting, one example that I guess is really stuck in my mind is the way that planning has changed even since 1974. And so Councillor Lisa Atwood, her area of Carina experienced some flooding, and it was the area of Carina that was developed before 1974 that was hit by the floods. Yet the area of Carina and nearby Carindale that was developed after 1974 was built to a different standard, and it didn't flood. And you can see how planning changes have provided these, I guess, additional requirements, additional building standards. But if you have a Queenslander that was built well before 1974, and they, virtually all were, and you sit there and you say, well, you're not allowed to live in your home anymore, you're not allowed to do anything with your home, and in fact you should move out of your home, that is not a way to deal with a city that has a housing crisis.
Point of order.
Point of order, Councillor Johnston.
Councillor Shree's question was to the Lord Mayor, and this is a relevance issue. If you make it harder for people to build on flood-prone land, isn't the premise that they will go and build on other land that doesn't flood, such as up on Ipswich Road, Annerley, or other places in the city? So that was the premise of the question, which the Lord Mayor is talking about letting people build on flood-prone land. That's not what the question was about.
Thank you. Lord Mayor, to that point of the question.
Well, Councillor Shree's policy is to make it harder for everyone to build anything, anywhere, except for if it's government housing, and then he wants a lot of that, but he won't specify where it is. The reality is it has become harder to build on flood-prone land, consistently harder. It became harder after 1974, it became harder after 2011, and it is becoming harder after this flood as well, because we put extra requirements on anything that is built on a site that is privately owned, that already has development on it, but if there's any changes to that, the requirements are stricter, as they should be. But I think evidence shows that even with those stricter requirements, people will still build things in those areas. And the reason is because people want to live in those areas still.
Thank you. Lord Mayor, your time has expired. Further questions? Councillor Huang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is to the Chair of the Transport Committee, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Murphy, the Sri-Lanka Council is planning for the growth of our city with a citywide review of our bus network. Can you please update the Chamber on this body of work which is now underway?
Councillor Murphy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Huang, for the question. Here at Brisbane City Council, we have been transporting Brisbane residents for more than 90 years, and many things have changed in that time. We've gone from trains and trams to buses, and now we have new modes like e-mobility. And with the commencement of Brisbane Metro services in 2024, our city will enter a new era of public transport, one which will help cater for our city's population growth and deliver efficient, reliable and high-frequency services. Brisbane is fundamentally a bus city. Our bus network is well loved and it does the heavy lifting when it comes to public transport. But that also means that our network has some problems. Each hour during the peak, over 385 buses use the Cultural Centre station alone, and that creates major congestion and reliability issues in our network. With the introduction of Brisbane Metro, we will have the opportunity to evolve our bus network from a largely direct service model to a hybrid network. Metro will act as a high-frequency trunk, transporting residents through the core of the CBD, and this review is about improving services right across the network to allow them to connect in with Metro. Metro Lines 1 and 2 will replace the 111, the 160 and the 66. But delivering Metro and the revised bus network will also mean more buses will be available for the suburbs as well. Council's transport planners have been working with TransLink for several years now to review and evolve the current bus network. And so I was extremely proud as Transport Chair to be able to share with the Lord Mayor Brisbane's new bus network with residents earlier this month. As part of the changes, a number of routes will be combined to simplify the network, and 2 routes with extremely low patronage will be removed. This allows us to make better use of our resources to give high-frequency services to more streets, to introduce new routes and deliver more reliable services from the suburbs to the city. 3 new routes are proposed, and there are 7 suburbs with new all-day services, as well as newly serviced roads in Yurongpilly and Coopers Plains. The proposed changes will also improve connections to a range of suburban locations like Mount Gravatt Plaza, Fairfield Gardens Shopping Centre and the Greenslopes Hospital, as well as our university campuses, which are the big winners, QUT, UQ and Griffiths Nathan Campus. But residents right across the city will see an improvement in the reliability of their bus services and a marked reduction in inner-city bus congestion, in fact, a reduction by a third. They'll also see easy transfers between new modes and increased frequencies and operating hours on key services. We'll do that by creating more consistent bus stop locations in the CBD, no matter what your direction of travel is. So more of us can expect to get on our afternoon service in the same spot we got dropped off in the morning. We're also planning to take pressure off the overloaded Cultural Centre station by shifting some transfer locations to other major busway stations in the CBD. We're introducing a new CBD corridor to service the southern CBD and integrate with Cross River Rail's new Albert Street station, just as the Adelaide Street bus corridor services the northern CBD area. Of course, we're bringing Brisbane residents along with us on the transport journey to ensure that we can get the best outcome for our city. We want residents to join the conversation and provide their feedback to help us create the best network possible. Consultation is open until the 14th of December, and we have plenty of resources for residents to learn about the new network both online and in person. Searching Brisbane's new bus network on the Council website will take you to the network guide, an interactive map portal where you can explore the changes, play the Brisbane Metro game and complete the feedback survey. We'll also be out and about in the community at libraries, community halls and busway stations to talk to residents about how the changes might impact their travel patterns. We will refine the bus network based on community input before releasing the final network in mid-2023, ahead of it being rolled out from late 2024. Mr Chair, I'd like to conclude by giving special thanks to some of the officers who've worked extremely hard to plan and deliver Brisbane's new bus network. It's been a big team effort with great collaboration across council, but I'd like to particularly mention a few names. Firstly, Dr Greg Spellman, Brian Bothwell, Daniel Martiri and their teams, who under the guidance of Transport for Brisbane's Divisional Manager, Jeff Beck, are the brains behind this network. They spent countless hours poring over patronage data, route maps, timetabling, and their commitment to this network and public transport for Brisbane residents is unmatched. I'd also like to mention Amy Driscoll, Bethan Stanway, Nicholas Culpepper and their teams within the Metro project who've led the charge on community consultation. And finally, I'd like to thank the Lord Mayor who has had the faith and kept the faith during this very difficult project to improve public transport for Brisbane residents.
Your time has expired. Further questions? Councillor Johnston.
Yes, thank you. Oh, that started at 42 seconds. Is that... Want to start again? No, I know, but thank you. My question is to the Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, on the 15th of March, you stated twice, in answer to a question from me, that you had seen no information from me or anyone that homes were flooded on Saturday the 26th of February. I table the 22 emails I sent to you and the LDCC from 10:49 a.m. on Saturday, including the one to you at 3:04 p.m, which you responded to, through to Sunday, the 11th, at 11:16 a.m. Lord Mayor, do you now accept that you and Council failed to send out timely evacuation and flood warnings via emergency warnings and alerts, which didn't happen until Sunday night, when it was too late for thousands of Brisbane residents who had flooded on Saturday, which Council had been advised about since 10:49 a.m. on Saturday morning?
Lord Mayor.
I certainly agree that the emergency alert system is broken and is certainly not in any way suitable for use during floods. That is the reality. We have seen it confirmed time and time again, which is why we used our own system to send out messages from
Point
Thursday.
of order, Councillor Johnston.
Thursday.
My question is whether the Lord Mayor accepts that he failed to send out timely warnings to thousands of Brisbane residents, despite Council knowing
Johnston,
from 10:49 a.m. on Saturday
we heard the
that
question.
residents were flooded.
You're now debating the question.
Well,
the
he's
Lord
not
Mayor was
answering the
20
question.
seconds into the answer. The Lord Mayor is being relevant to the question.
Thank you. It's interesting because everyone seems to be an expert in hindsight. The nature of these situations is they move rapidly. Some of the information you have is accurate. Some of it is not so accurate. It continues to change, and you get essentially what is referred in military terms as the fog of war, where you get bits of information coming at you and you don't have the time in an emergency situation to be able to verify every piece of information. And so what we have to do is we have to rely on the advice that comes in from...
Councillor Johnston, allow the answer to be heard.
That comes from the Bureau. And in fact, while everyone tries to be an expert and say, why wasn't something sent out on the Saturday, the day when the Premier was saying there was no cause for concern, it wasn't in fact until the Sunday that the Bureau of Meteorology issued a major flood warning. It wasn't until the Sunday. So for anyone to suggest that before the Bureau, who has better information than any individual council does, who has a bigger picture than any individual government does, to question that the Bureau only issued an alert on the Sunday, which is the reality, is, I think, being an expert in hindsight. Now, I have committed time and time again that we would learn from this event so that we can improve our systems. And we are doing that, and we have done that. What I am concerned about is that the state government keeps defending a broken system. Now, the emergency alert system has its limitations, and that is being confirmed in the state government's own IGEM report. There are 19 recommendations in the IGEM report. Recommendations 3, 4 and 5 of the report acknowledge the inadequacies of the emergency alert platform and make recommendations on how to make the system better. The IGEM report did not criticise Brisbane City Council. It
Point of
did
order.
not.
Point of order, Councillor Johnston.
My question is not about the IGEN report. It is about the advice that I provided in 22 emails on Saturday and Sunday to the Lord Mayor and the LDCC, clearly stating that houses were flooding.
Councillor
Does
Johnston,
the Lord Mayor now accept, he denied it twice,
Councillor Johnston, you're now debating the question.
His alerts were too late?
Councillor Johnston,
That was
your
the
question was about the emergency warning alerts.
No,
the
it
Lord
wasn't.
Mayor is responding
No,
to that
it was
question.
not.
And so what we see here is the Bureau, who's the expert organisation that we all rely on advice for when it comes to major weather events, natural disasters, particularly floods and storms, only issued a major flood warning on Saturday. So if it was indeed news to the state government, which we know it was on Saturday, they were saying there's no cause for concern, or if it was news to other levels of government, it was also news to the Bureau of Meteorology, who has all of the rain gauges, all of the technology and all of the predictive modelling to determine when a major flood is coming. And it was only on the Sunday, that they issued a major flood warning. And so the reality is, I say again, this was a rapidly moving situation. The important thing here is that we learn from it, and we have learned as an organisation. I am concerned that the state government is burying its head in the sand on a broken system as we go into a new storm season. And so this system needs to be fixed.
Councillor Johnston, enough, please.
But having said that, our alerts through the Brisbane Severe Weather Alert System were going out from the Thursday. So any suggestion that we didn't send out alerts is rubbish. It is rubbish. Our alert system provides both general weather updates from the BOM, but any flood warnings it sends out as well, and they come automatically from the Bureau of Meteorology. And so the system works in an automated way and very quickly. It appears within minutes. The minute the BOM issues a flood warning for a particular area, that goes straight out to residents and they get it on their email and their phone. That's a great system that works well. What we are raising concerns about is the state and federal system, which delays messages by anything from 6 to 12 to 14 hours in a time of emergency. It is unacceptable. It needs to be fixed. We'll continue doing all of our things and our responsibilities to improve the situation and to learn the lessons.
Your time has expired. Further questions? Councillor Landers.
My question is to the Chair of the Environment, Parks and Sustainability Committee, Councillor Davis. Councillor Davis, the Schrinner Council's plan to build Brisbane's biggest new park in 50 years has reached its next important step. Can you please update the Chamber on the latest in the Schrinner Council's Victoria Park Barambin vision?
Councillor Davis.
Well, thank you, Mr Chair, and through you I'd like to thank Councillor Landers for the question. And I know Councillor Landers really enjoyed coming to Victoria Park back in May, where we hosted the Green Heart Fair for the first time in this wonderful, iconic space in Brisbane, and I know you're looking forward to coming to the Green Heart Fair next year. Mr Chair, it was wonderful to join the Lord Mayor, Councillor Howard and Councillor Matic back in September when the Lord Mayor released the draft master plan for Victoria Park Barambin, which is the next phase and the next exciting step in the transformation of Brisbane's newest iconic parkland. The draft master plan has been informed by over 51,000 pieces of community feedback, which was provided throughout the vision phase. The draft master plan provides another opportunity for the community to have their say on what they want to see in Brisbane's biggest park in 50 years. Since the draft was released, we have been busy holding consultation and engagement events both in the park and around the city, and they include pop-up consultation events in Queen Street Mall, at the busway station at Hurston and at Spring Hill Common. And I thank Councillor Howard for attending that. We've also had an online community information session and a community workshop in the urban pump track for the design of that particular feature. Unfortunately, our Discovery Day, which was to be held on the weekend, had to be cancelled due to the wet weather, but there is still an opportunity for people to have their say when we host the next Cinema in the Suburbs event for Halloween. The team will be available to chat about the plan and to take any feedback from the community. The project team will also be hosting an extended pop-up in the Queen Street Mall this week to be able to talk to residents about the plan and what they'd like to see in the park. Mr Chair, initial feedback from the consultation is extremely encouraging, with the majority of people showing overwhelming support for the draft master plan. And I would like to think that that people that work in the city or residents that are visiting the city pop down to Queen Street Mall and provide their feedback to the team and learn a little more about what the plan provides the city. The feedback from the vision showed that the residents' #1 priority was rewilding the park and with more vegetation and natural areas, and the draft master plan speaks to this by a planned increase in the canopy from 10%, which it is currently, to 60%, as well as the restorations of the wetlands and waterways across the park. A key part of the strategy is to use native flora and fauna to re-establish the ecology which predated the European settlement. And this will provide not only habitat for Brisbane's native wildlife, but a cleaner, greener and cooler part for the inner city. The draft master plan incorporates state-of-the-art facilities for community, sporting and cultural events into the park's design, as well as flexibility to host temporary major events such as the venue for the Olympics and Paralympic Games. Already we have new barbecues and shelters being erected across the park to make the amenity even better for people when they come along and make use of this fantastic space. The new Spring Hill Common, Councillor Howard, will feature a relaxed parkland setting with tiered step seating for activations, performances in the park, as well as a flat outdoor area for activities, gatherings and picnics. It's a very slopey area over there, and this will provide a nice flat area for people to enjoy, and that should be delivered by the end of next year. And on the Hurston side, the urban pump track is designed to take advantage of the park's natural topography, and it offers a track for riders of all skill sets. It'll include small skatable features along with additional picnic shelters and seating, making it a new and what I believe will be an exciting element for families in the inner city to come and enjoy. There's a lot happening right now at Victoria Park, which is becoming a very desirable place for people to come and visit. We've had over 15,000 locals at the Green Heart Fair and 10,000 people over 2 weekends ago coming along to the Emergency Services Expo this month. So there's never any shortage of things to do at Victoria Park. And we are really looking forward to receiving the feedback from the community so that we can move forward with delivering a park for everyone, not only for residents in Brisbane, but for people that come and enjoy our wonderful city.
Thank you,
Mr.
Councillor.
Chair.
Further questions? Councillor Cumming.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Mr Chair, my question is to the Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, at the same time you increased the budget for your inner city metro project by $500 million, you only increased funding for suburban drainage projects by $2 million. The advertising budget for the metro is bigger than the meagre boost you gave drainage. Why do the suburbs constantly miss out on your watch?
Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cumming, for the question. I'm not sure where you're getting your figures from, but they're wrong. They are wrong. So we have, in fact, doubled the budget for drainage in the recent budget. We have doubled it, and it is more money than any other administration has spent in the city of the history of the city on drainage and all types of drainage. And so the idea that there's been a small increase is just simply wrong. It is simply wrong. But the reality is we have invested heavily in providing funding available for drainage projects in this budget by doubling the budget, in fact more than doubling the budget. And so If you had to measure the level of increase in any kind of program or initiative in the budget, this is one of the ones that has had the biggest increase of any. And so, Councillor Cumming, like I said, I'm not sure where you got your figures from, but they're not correct.
Thank you. That ends question time for today. And before you continue, Lord Mayor, with the E&C report, I just have to do a slight swap out.
Mr Chair, I move that the report of the Establishment and Coordination Committee meeting held on Monday, 12th of September 2022 be adopted.
Seconded.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Moved by the Lord Mayor, seconded by Councillor Hutton, that the report of the Establishment Coordination Committee meeting dated Monday the 12th of September 2022 be adopted. Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Chair.
Point of order, Mr Chair.
Point of order, Councillor Allen.
I have a declarable conflict of interest in Clause A. I have received gifts totalling more than $500 but less than $2,000 from the Brisbane Racing Club within the relevant period. As such, I will remove myself from the chamber for the duration of debate and voting on this item.
Thank you, Councillor Allen.
Point of order, Mr Chair.
Point of order, Councillor Marx.
I have a declarable conflict of interest in Clause A. I have received gifts totalling more than $500 but less than $2,000 from the Brisbane Racing Club within the relevant period. As such, I will remove myself from the chamber for the duration of debate and voting on this item.
Thank you, Councillor Marx.
Point of order, Mr Deputy Chair.
Point of order, Councillor McLaughlin.
I have a declarable conflict of interest in Clause A. I've received gifts totalling more than $500 but less than $2,000 from the Brisbane Racing Club within the relevant period. As such, I'll remove myself from the chamber for the duration of debate and voting on this item.
Thank you, Councillor McLaughlin. Any other conflicts at all? Just wait for Councillor McLaughlin to leave the chamber. We'll now proceed with the debate. Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Chair. As I always do, I wanted to talk about the lighting up of assets that we're doing in support of important community causes. Last night, Redcliffe Place, the Tropical Dome, Victoria Bridge and Story Bridge were lit up in turquoise to support Queensland Children's Week. Queensland Children's Week is a national occasion, and a range of events and activities are organised at both national, state and local levels to celebrate children's rights and for the wider community to rejoice in their talents, skills and abilities. Tonight, the Story Bridge, Tropical Dome, Victoria Place and Redcliffe Place will be lit up in purple for World Polio Day. Rotary International was responsible for starting the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, which has resulted in polio cases falling from 1,000 cases per day worldwide to around 150 cases per year. So that's an incredible achievement. And it's now only, polio is now only present in 2 different countries. Wonderful outcome there. Tomorrow is Intersex Awareness Day, and all of our assets will be lit up in purple and yellow to support this occasion. The Awareness Day is held internationally each year on the 26th of October to raise awareness of intersex people to the general public and also highlight the challenges that they face. On Thursday night, our assets will be lit up in purple, aqua and green to support World Teachers' Day. And lighting up our assets helps support the important work of our teachers, and quality teachers are obviously critical to the future of our community, our city and our nation. On Friday night, the Story Bridge, Victoria Bridge, Tropical Dome and Redcliffe Place will be lit up in red for the Day for Daniel. The Day for Daniel is Australia's largest child safety, education and awareness day, which honours the memory of Daniel Morecambe. Schools, early learning centres and workplaces come together to wear red, educate and donate on this special day. On Saturday night, Story Bridge, Redcliffe Place and Victoria Bridge will be lit up in red and white to celebrate the Turkish National Day. Sunday is National Grandparents' Day and our assets will be lit up in yellow to mark this day as well. This celebrates the contribution of grandparents and that they make to families and communities. And in Queensland, Grandparents' Day is celebrated every year on the last Sunday in October and is an opportunity to connect with loved ones and showcase what they mean to all of us. I also just did want to touch on the Queensland Oz Contact Awards. And Councillor Howard, I know you're very excited about these awards because this is the awards process for contact centres, such as our own contact centre. A few weeks ago, on October 7, the annual Queensland Oz Contact Awards night was held. Council has historically done very well in these awards, and I'm pleased to report that this is the case again this year. Council had 10 officers nominated for awards this year, 7 of whom made the finals, and of those, 3 were winners. And so we had finalists were Christine Martin, Julia Silson, Sue Kelleher, Bianca Shembry, and also winners were Rebecca Frey and Christy Pascoe. So congratulations to all of those finalists and winners. And congratulations to, oh, hang on a second, there's a second page here that I've missed of more winners. Denise Olsen as well was one of the winners. So Rebecca Frey won the Customer Contact Professional Award. Kirsty Pascoe won the People's Champion Award. Denise Olsen won the Customer Experience Champion Award. And so I do congratulate all of those finalists and winners, and in fact I want to congratulate and thank everyone that works in our contact centre. As you know, one of the front doors of council, they do a fantastic job 24/7. It has been a challenging year in many ways, and you know, the contact centre has been at the forefront of our response, not only to the pandemic and other community issues and the floods, but for them to win awards in such a difficult year is a credit to everyone involved. So I thank them personally for their efforts. On Friday night, we had the annual Lord Mayor's Business Awards in City Hall, and 13 awards were given out on the night, showcasing the very best of Brisbane local business. The winners were in the CCIQ Award for Outstanding Small Business, Wardera Limited. The Accenture Award for Product Innovation was given to Vaxis. The Urban Utilities Award for Environmental Sustainability in Business was given to Save Our Supplies Limited. The Hutchinson Builders Award for Outstanding Social Enterprise was given to Australian Spatial Analytics Limited. The Zero Award for Outstanding Micro Business was given to Kiddo. The HSBC Award for Excellence in International Business was given to Populous. The Australia Pacific LNG Award for Business Innovation was given to Double Take Sports Pty Ltd. The ANZ Award for High Growth Business was given to Simpro. The ISPT Award for Investment in Brisbane was given to the Princess Theatre. The Port of Brisbane Award for Young Business Person of the Year was given to Dr. James Fielding, who is the founder of Wardera. Courier Mail Award for Business Person of the Year was given to Elena Goss, OAM, the CEO of AIS Water. A Lifetime Achievement Award was given to Jonathan Stoddart, the Managing Director and Chairman of Stoddart Group, and the Optus Platinum Award was given to Simpro. Yet again, another fantastic set of examples of Brisbane businesses that are innovating despite the challenging times that we're in, employing jobs and creating opportunities for Brisbane residents, and also, in a number of cases, kicking goals on the national and international scale as well. So it is right that we celebrate our business community and the contribution they make to a stronger Brisbane. Now, there's been some questions raised today about emergency alerts. And as I said before, it is easy to be an expert in hindsight with these sort of situations. But you've actually got to drill down and have a look at what happened and how we responded and how we can respond better. That is the important thing. I've said it repeatedly. All levels of government should have one aim and one aim only, and that is to make sure that each time we respond in a better way and we learn from the lessons of each event and make sure that we adapt our response and respond better each time to each natural disaster that might come our way. And so we have faithfully done that. We have not just relied on a state government review to cover council's response. We commissioned our own review to have a look at specifically items relating to the Brisbane City Council. Now, when it comes to the IGEM report, there were 19 recommendations in the IGEM report. Our report went into more detail than that and had 37 recommendations. And in fact, that's not the only thing that we're doing in response to the flood. We've also developed our own flood action plan. And so we're taking this incredibly seriously, and we're making changes and improvements to a range of different areas. But this claim about the EA system, it's incredibly, I guess, misleading to suggest that one individual system is a silver bullet when it comes to responding to a quickly evolving natural disaster, particularly when that system has its big problems and big constraints. And we discovered just how big those problems and constraints were from the various reports that were done. An emergency alert system that was designed for bushfires in small regional towns and communities is not fit for purpose in a big city the size of Brisbane, where you've also got other councils around us trying to access the system. Now, what we found is that...
Lord Mayor, your time has expired.
Move for an extension. Seconded.
Extension of time moved by Councillor Hutton, seconded by Councillor Landers. All those in favour say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Chair, and thank you to the Chamber. Now, what we found is that the system became quickly overloaded, and there were queues of councils waiting to send out messages, and the messages were taking far too long to get out to people. Now, we didn't put all of our eggs in one basket. We used multiple channels to communicate with people. We have our own system, the Brisbane Severe Weather Alert System, which was sending out messages and notifications from the Thursday and all the way through that event. And in fact, from between the Friday and the Saturday, when things evolved really quickly, there were 275 different alerts that we sent out on our system. And those alerts were sent, included over 208,000 text messages and 116,000 emails. Now, just remember, there were 23,000 properties that flooded. And so there were large parts of the city that did not flood. And there are people who are actively interested in getting this information and have actively signed up to our system. And we now have over a third of households signed up to our system. And we've worked to increase that following the flood. But we also know that when around 5% of the city flooded, we have 35% of households on our system. And so there is a significant reach, and that reach goes over and above just the people who flooded, but to other members of the community as well. That system is almost instantaneous. And so we used it from the Thursday on, and we sent multiple warnings, and we used multiple channels to communicate with people. But one of the interesting things that I have some concerns about is this idea that the emergency alert system, this national system, is some kind of silver bullet and should have been used more. Well, it was already overloaded. It got overloaded very quickly, and using it more would only cause further delays. And a system that is delayed by anywhere from 6 to 14 hours is basically useless in a natural disaster. It is useless. It is a useless system because the functionality of the system means it gets out to people too late. So we have to use all channels, and we did. But this claim by Minister Ryan that we should have used the system more is interesting because we had the same information that the state government had. And in fact, in our control centre, there were state representatives. There were representatives from different state agencies. They saw all the information we saw. Now, did the state government send out any emergency alerts during the flood? Not a single one. Not a single one. Well, Councillor Cassidy has interjected saying it's up to us to request. Well, you were in charge.
Councillor Cassidy, please.
Well, that's an interesting claim, Mr Chair, because did anyone happen to get some unnecessary messages from the state during COVID? On that same number? They use the emergency alert system to tell people about COVID-related messages. And
Councillors, please. The Lord Mayor is speaking.
And
Councillor Cassidy. Councillor Johnston, please.
Point of order, Chair.
Councillor Sri Ranganathan.
I am just having a bit of trouble here, and I heard the Lord Mayor say that the council was the lead agency for health crises and pandemics. Is that correct?
Well, Councillor Sri Ranganathan, are you asking the Lord Mayor a question?
I just couldn't hear.
We should give the Lord Mayor the opportunity to answer the question in silence, please. Lord Mayor.
so it's interesting when you saw the Labor Party run a campaign at the last federal election where they portrayed the Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister, saying, you know, it's not my job. That's what they were claiming that he said. This is exactly what Councillor Cassidy is saying about the state government right now. Apparently it's not their job. The state government doesn't hold the hose. And the reality is they could use this emergency alert system to let us know about a school closure.
Point of order, Chair.
Or a general COVID message.
Lord Mayor, just one moment, please.
Will the Mayor take a quick question?
Lord Mayor, will you take a question from Councillor Sri Ranganathan? No. Lord Mayor, please continue.
Point of order, Chair.
Just for the Councillor Murphy.
Deputy Chair, just before the Lord Mayor continues, I've seen two councillors, particularly Councillor Cassidy and Councillor Johnston, every time the Lord Mayor is talking, scream at him over the chamber, over what he's saying. I wonder if you consider that an act of disorder and worthy of a warning, because I think it is extremely unbecoming behaviour, and we cannot allow that kind of behaviour to become normalised in this chamber.
Councillor Murphy, I accept your point of order. I understand and accept that this is a place of debate, and this is an issue that everyone feels strongly about. However, the Lord Mayor is speaking on an important issue and should be given the opportunity to be heard. On top of that, this matter is open for you to discuss in general business should you wish to later on, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. So the nature of Councillor Sri Ranganathan, Councillor Johnston and Councillor Cassidy's interjections here have been, this is not the state's job. That's what they're saying. So there is a multi-million-dollar disaster control centre at Kedron funded...
Lord Mayor, just one moment, please. Point of order, Councillor Sri Ranganathan.
Claim to be misrepresented. Do better.
Councillor,
That's
claim
a
to
bit
be
rich coming
misrepresented.
from Councillor Sri Ranganathan. So there is a well-funded, well-staffed state disaster control centre at Kedron, but we're hearing today from some councillors that it's not their job. It's not their job. Well, it's interesting because I asked our own team, has the state government ever sent out emergency alerts in the case of a severe weather system or a flood or some kind of weather-related alert? And the answer was yes, absolutely, they have done that in the past. So they've done it in the past, yet Labor councillors and others are arguing that it's not the state's job. They actually control the system. They're the ones sitting at the desk. And so for Minister Ryan to suggest that, oh no, it's up to councils to do that, he's simply saying it's not his job. I expect better from a police minister and an emergency services minister than to say it's not his job, because that's effectively what he's saying. The state had access to all the same information we did. There was information sharing all the way through that event, yet some people have chosen to play politics with this, and it's very disappointing. Now, you know what? I have not criticised the state's response in any way. I have not criticised the state's flood response in any way. What I have criticised is their lack of action since the flood. That's what I have criticised. Why? Because we're going into another storm season and I am concerned. Now there's things the state could have done a lot better during the flood. They have, you know, the IGEM report goes into some of them, but I have not criticised the state for their flood response. And so for the minister to play politics with this is not in the spirit of genuine cooperation in which we should act in a natural disaster. I haven't criticised their flood response, but I have simply said we need to fix this broken system. Now, I have also said that we need to consider proactive dam releases. And despite me being criticised by state ministers, guess what? They're doing proactive dam releases. They eventually listened to common sense and reason, and they have taken my suggestion on board.
Please, Lord Mayor,
I didn't
continue.
see anyone else suggesting there should be proactive dam releases. In fact, it was only me, yet they've done it because it was the right thing to do. And so I will also fiercely advocate for improvements to the emergency alert system run by the state government on behalf of the federal government, because it needs to happen. It needs to happen. So despite the political games that are being played here, my interest is purely
Councillor Strunk, please.
in making sure that we are prepared for whatever comes next. The system needs to be fixed. It's as simple as that, Mr. Chair. Now, moving on to the items that are in front of us. Item A it's the only item in front of us on this particular report. Item A is the assignment of a lease from Crushers Leagues Club Limited to Brisbane Racing Club Limited. This item seeks council approval to assign the lease of the former Stafford Bowls Club from Crushers Leagues Club to the Brisbane Racing Club. On the 11th of June 2019, council approved a 20-year lease for Crushers for the site. Unfortunately, since this time, Crushers have been unable to resolve the transfer of previously held licences to the premises, which has impacted on the ability of Crushers to operate the site. So on the 5th of August 2022, council received a request from Crushers to assign the lease to Brisbane Racing Club. In their plans to operate the site, Brisbane Racing Club estimated that activating this facility will create approximately 60 new jobs and employment opportunities in the local area and deliver a revitalised community hub to be used by locals, social members and sporting clubs. In addition, Brisbane Racing Club will also make community contributions in the lease to provide financial and in-kind support to the activities of Gibson Park Committee, which manage Gibson Park and support its 3 member organisations, those being Stafford District Cricket Club, Padua College and the Brothers Junior Rugby League Football Club. In total, the community contributions expected to be provided under this lease will see a minimum of $200,000 per annum being provided to the local community for the first 20 years of the lease, and the delivery of approximately $7.5 million in capital funding going towards the improvement of the facility. Before I sit down, I also did want to table some documents, this being the first meeting after a recess. If there's someone who can grab these documents as I table them. I table the Queensland Audit Office Final Management Letter dated 6th of September. They're all together there. The Controlled Entity Financial Statements of City Parkland Services Pty Ltd, the Controlled Entity Financial Statements of the Brisbane Economic Development Agency, and the Controlled Entity Financial Statements of Brisbane Powerhouse Pty Ltd. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Before I get to you, Councillor Cassidy, Councillor Sri Ranganathan, in regards to misrepresentation.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. The Mayor was putting words into my mouth. He said that I said that the state government wasn't responsible for alerting residents to flooding, and that's certainly not my view and not what I said.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cassidy.
Thanks, Deputy Chair. On the item before us, the transfer of the lease from Crushers Leagues Club to Brisbane Racing Club, we supported this item back in 2019 when the lease was originally awarded to Crushers Leagues Club, because that site, the former Stafford Bowls Club site and other associated land and community sporting facilities around it were left vacant. I remember seeing those images of the Stafford Bowls Club at knee-high grass, totally unusable. So the community certainly wanted to see that community facility used. And it was a tender process of which Crushers won because they made certain commitments to the local community and certain commitments to council. We did at the time place on record concerns about the ability of Crushers to make this proposal viable. So 3 years ago we said we would support it, but we do have some reservations about what they are putting forward. We have to trust what they say they can deliver, and we at the time, trusted the administration to have figured all of that out with the successful tenderer. Now, that was 3 years ago, and there was a $200,000 a year commitment to the community made then, and that never came to fruition, obviously. And as far as we know, no follow-up. It just sort of sat there for 3 years, not happening, before an arrangement has been made between Crushers Leagues Club and the Brisbane Racing Club behind closed doors, and some sort of arrangement they have made and an approach made to council over this. So given Crushers have not come good on any of the upgrades, any of the community contributions that they promised, it is appropriate that they no longer have the lease. We agree with that. However, the item before us today is not open, transparent or accountable. Obviously, a deal has been struck between Crushers Leagues Club and the Brisbane Racing Club to transfer this lease over, but what input did the local community have? It's not clear in these papers before us today that they have had any meaningful say over the last 3 years about the future direction of this site, other than a very cashed-up entity, the Brisbane Racing Club, who's snapping up community lease sites all around the city, coming in and taking over this lease here. Now, the local LNP councillor has been promising residents out there for years that this community facility would be a community facility again. Since we've seen the end of the Stafford Bowls Club, particularly 6 years ago, as I mentioned, and they have failed their community. That LNP councillor has fundamentally failed to preserve and protect a community facility for the community, which was thriving. I remember going to events there many years ago, ideally located at what we know in planning terms is as a community centre, right next to the Stafford shopping centre out there. But that community has been failed by their local LNP councillor. And to just simply hand over the lease from one organisation to another in this fashion is very lazy. It doesn't involve the community. It's not open. It's not transparent. There's no public tender. There's no input from the community about what they want to see. And particularly, we're in a whole new context now. It's a rapidly growing part of the city. We've got the Olympic and Paralympic Games in less than 10 years now. There are amazing opportunities right across the north side and the south side for an historic investment in community and sporting clubs that delivers genuine community benefits, and it must include the community along the way. You can't simply say, well, the Stafford Bowls Club closed in 2016, Crushers got a lease in 2019, it's now 2022, we'll just give it to someone else and cross our fingers and hope that they deliver a good community benefit, because they're clearly going to be reaping an amazing commercial benefit from this site if they're going to be investing $7.5 million and giving $200,000 back to the community. You can just imagine the profit margins that are going to be operating in this former community club. So if in fact they went through an open tender process and the community knew what was going on and they had the best value for money and we got the best outcome for that, then so be it. But that simply hasn't happened in this case. It's just a behind closed doors transfer. ENC's decided that that's what they want to see as well, and it's being brought here to rubber stamp at council, and it's not something we'll be supporting today.
Further debate? Councillor Johnston.
Thank you. I rise to speak on this item before us today, the transfer of the lease from the Crushers Leagues Club. I say in the outset I will not be supporting this arrangement. I find this to be probably one of the worst decisions that council is making when it comes to community life in Brisbane. I listened to what the Leader of the Opposition said, and I've got a few sort of additional things to put on the record about this. Firstly, when an organisation fails to deliver, a community organisation fails to deliver on its lease commitments, Brisbane City Council has an obligation to step in and take action, and it has clearly failed to do so here. For 3 years. Thank you, Councillor Strunk. Secondly, the normal procedure is the lease is handed back to council and an expressions of interest process is undertaken in the community to determine who the successful applicant for the leased premises will be. So Brisbane City Council has deviated from its policy and its practice to hand over this lease to a major for-profit organisation that does not have the interests of community-based grassroots sport at heart. The question is why? And I don't think that that has been answered here at all today. Why is it that this organisation, which is clearly donating tickets or money or whatever it might be to the LNP hand over fist, is getting a rails run of a lease for a community sporting facility without any transparent and independent process in accordance with council policy? That's the fundamental question here. The crushers have failed. Now they're seeking to do a deal with the Brisbane Racing Corporation. And let's have a look at that deal. There is already a 20-year lease in place, which started in 2019. So there's approximately 18 years left to run on that lease. Brisbane City Council is now suggesting that on top of the 18 years still to go, another 3 years and an option for 10 years is added. So all up, the decision that Brisbane City Council is going to make here today, led by the LNP, is that the Brisbane Racing Corporation get a 33-year maximum term lease from Brisbane City Council. Do I think that that is acceptable? Under no circumstances is that acceptable. This lease could run for 33 years. Now, also on the agenda today, this council is being told from year to year that prices go up and we've got to change things. But this LNP administration, so enamoured is it by the horse racing industry that it wants to hand over an up to 33-year community lease to the Brisbane Racing Corporation without an expression of interest and tendering process that is normally done for community leases. Why? Why is this sweetheart deal being done? It is absolutely not good enough that the LNP put their heads down and pretend that this is somehow going to help the community. It does not help when big business takes over small community groups. Now, Councillor Griffiths is not here today, but I know there are still problems with the Brisbane Racing Corporation's involvement out at Acacia Ridge. They definitely haven't done all the things that they were supposed to have done out there, and there's no guarantees that that's going to happen here. We don't even know in this paper before us today whether all of the local groups that use these fields, the Cricket Club, Padua Brothers, and the Stafford Bowls Club, do they even have subleases? Are they still valid? I know, I hear Councillor Hammond, but here's the issue. Once there's a new entity controlling the lease, they don't have a lease anymore because their sublease has been with crushers. So the big issue here is, do all these small sporting clubs have their leases assigned over? Do new lease subleases have to be done with the Brisbane Racing Corporation, which legally they will have to be done because the sublease is between an organisation that doesn't hold the tenure anymore? So, are they protected, is the question. Now, Councillor Hammond's obviously gone out and gone, whoa, hallelujah, the racing's coming to the suburbs of Brisbane, maybe I'll get $500 worth of tickets to the races as well. But meanwhile, there is no guarantee that the subleases to these groups are actually going to be honoured by the Brisbane Racing Corporation. Once we hand legal tenure to them, there is nothing left protecting these groups. Now, what are the terms that we're going to undertake? Let's look at that next. So there is possibly up to 33 years on the lease. Now, I know that Councillor Cunningham won't be here in 33 years, but I'd be thinking within that period of time, there may be some other things that happen. There may be new sporting clubs, other sporting clubs might fold, but there needs to be flexibility built into this process. The 20-year lease to crushers was wrong. Adding another 10 years or up to 13 years to an existing 20-year lease contract is unacceptable. It is unacceptable. I think this will be maybe together with the rubbish contracts which was, what, 36 years or something, I think. And I just can't remember the Broncos. I think it's probably even longer than the Broncos lease there at Red Hill, but that may be longer. But this would be one of the biggest leases council's ever handed out. And there is no expression of interest process. Council's handing over this site to a for-profit company without any independent scrutiny and any independent checks, and without any safeguards other than BRC is committed to supporting local sporting organisations. Well, I'm sure they are. But what does that actually mean? And it's our job as a council to make sure that those protections are enshrined in the governance and the leasing arrangements that are in place. And there's nothing in here that does this. This is handing over control of a site to a racing organisation for 33 years. That is unacceptable. Yeah. Now, you'd think that we're going to get a lot of outcomes. We're going to get some wonderful outcomes. So it says here that a minimum of $200,000 per annum will be provided to the local community for the first 20 years of the lease. Now, we know for the first 3 that didn't happen. So does that mean there's going to be $600,000, which is for the 3 years that hasn't happened, and then the next 17 there's going to be $200,000 a year? So this is not right. I mean, maybe the Lord Mayor wants to stand up and explain to us whether they're going to pay the $600,000 shortfall that the Crushers didn't put in. It then goes on to say that rents and community contribution will be renegotiated prior to the exercise of further option term based on market review at that time. So maybe in 20 years, or 18 years, I'm sorry, maybe in, no, I'm sorry, it'll be 3 and 18. So it'll be in 21 years from today, there'll be a renegotiation of the terms of the lease. In 21 years. Does anybody think that the Racing Club of Brisbane should be given a 21-year lease and probably another 10 years after that without having any independent scrutiny? I don't. It also goes on here to say that they're going to invest some $7.5 million in capital works. Now, over 33 years, do you know how much that works out to be? About $200,000 to $250,000 a year. So the community is not even getting a windfall from this. If I was a community club out in this part of Brisbane, I would be throwing my hands up at my local councillor and going, why are you doing a sweetheart deal with a for-profit racing company? Why are you not looking after the interests of the community sporting clubs? Why isn't there a lease arrangement here that protects them? Why hasn't council looked at putting this out for an expression of interest to see who can manage it? None of these questions have been answered here today. Instead, the LNP wants to do a sweetheart deal with the Brisbane Racing Corporation. No doubt we're going to see poker machines, we're going to see everything else go in out here. And how does that help little sporting clubs? It does not.
Further debate? Councillor Sri Ranganathan.
Thanks, Chair. Probably won't surprise anyone to hear me say that Brisbane Racing Club is a parasitic leech that strips money from the pockets of the poor so it can cross-subsidise the recreational activities of wealthier people and the systematic abuse of animals. And I do share the concerns that other councillors in this chamber have raised, particularly about the sequence of events leading up to this proposed lease. I think not only is the Racing Club an evil organisation that does a lot of harm into society, but it also has nothing to do with this site, and it doesn't seem like a good fit for this particular community facility. The length of the lease that Councillor Johnston has raised concerns about, I agree that that's very concerning. I also agree, I also share concerns that the process of just giving them priority on this thing is very flawed and concerning. The correct process would have been to go out to tender or to seek expressions of interest so that a range of community groups across the city could offer to take on this facility and activate it. Alternatively, the council could have gone back through previous expressions of interest and previous tender processes for this site and see if any of those previous groups that had offered are still interested. There's a range of processes that could have been undertaken, but instead the council is simply saying, okay, cool, we'll just let the racing club have it, that's easy. That's not good process. The rent on this facility is very cheap. I assume it's going to only be a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand a year. That's really cheap real estate, right? And we know the racing club is going to use the advantages of that cheap real estate to prop up and cross-subsidise the other less profitable parts of its business model. I think Councillor Johnson could be wrong in that it might technically be a non-profit entity. I'm not sure about that. I think it's acting like a for-profit entity, though. I don't think it's actually serving a community purpose. And I actually think it shouldn't be seriously considered a non-profit entity if indeed it legally is structured as such. I've said before that I don't feel comfortable in general with council-owned community facilities being leased out to the racing club. And I again say that if in future the Greens had the ability to do so, we would certainly be looking to revoke this lease or renegotiate it to kick the racing club off this site, because they do more harm than good in communities. That's what it boils down to. I'm sure there are councillors in this chamber who will say, oh, but it's great, we'll be able to reopen this, we'll be able to have a bit more funding for that. But where does the money come from? That's what you have to think about at the end of the day. It comes from people, predominantly vulnerable people and predominantly people on lower incomes, getting swindled out of their money by poker machines and horse racing and problem gambling addictions. That's where the money comes from. So even if you look at this on paper and you say, oh, but they're offering this much money in terms of upgrades and they're offering this much support for these other clubs, the money comes from harming people. It comes from problem gamblers. So whatever else you think about the deal, whatever you're weighing up the benefits, you have to, when you're looking at the costs and the downsides of this deal, you have to fully factor in the social harms of problem gambling that the Brisbane Racing Club is profiting from. And if in your balance sheet, if in your cost-benefit analysis you exclude those harms of problem gambling and you don't include them on the ledger, then sure, it might look like a pretty good deal. It might look like a good deal for the other clubs that are going to be able to leverage off this facility and the people who'll get some work behind the bar or whatever. But once you include those harms of problem gambling, once you include and factor in all those people who are losing more money than they can afford at the horse races or at the pokies, this is a very, very bad deal for the public interest. And that's before we even talk about the systematic animal abuse that the racing club is complicit in. I guess the one thing that gives me some confidence is that I don't think horse racing will be a sport 20 years from now. And the racing club will be probably in structural decline or else seriously recalibrating the way it does business. I think a lot of its primary activities are already unprofitable, and that's why it's seeking to gain control of more of these different community facilities and diversify its revenue streams so that it can continue to operate even as horse racing becomes unprofitable. I suspect that's what's going on, and that's what the long-term strategy here is. But as a basic matter of principle, it's not good for our city that a single large entity is starting to take control of more and more community facilities across the metropolis to manage them essentially as for-profit businesses. The purpose of these community facilities is to meet the needs of the local community. It's to provide heavily subsidised spaces for sporting groups, as I understand it. But that goal or overarching purpose of community facilities seems to be taking a back seat here. And I do think the council is heading down the wrong track with this. I think there will be a very strong case for tearing up this lease in a couple of years, and I'll certainly do whatever I can to make that happen, because I have no interest in Brisbane City Council becoming a closer partner with the racing club.
Further debate? Councillor Hammond.
Thank you, Mr Acting Chair. I rise to support this item in front of us. I would like to start with Councillor Cassidy's comments, and I know that he likes to stray from the truth quite regularly and not tell the whole truth, just swingle around it. So let me say, yes, the lease was signed in 2019. to Crushers. Yes, there was a delay. Yes, Crushers were spending over $6 million doing up this site. Yes, Stafford Bowls Club handed in their lease because they couldn't do it. Might I also remind people in this room that Queensland Bowls wanted to put high-density retirement village on council land, which we said no. Crushers got the lease in 2014. Why was there a delay? Because the state government took 4 years to transfer their liquor licence. They didn't get their liquor licence approved until the 24th of December 2021. Now, not only did that happen, now, Councillor Sri, I just want to say I'm against gambling as well. That's a personal... Sorry, Sri Ranganathan, I'll work on the pronunciation, I'm sorry. So, not only did they just have to transfer their gambling licence, and I'm against gambling, Councillor Sri, that's a personal choice. Other people can actually gamble if they want to, but I'm actually personally against it. So, they still haven't got that, because the state government couldn't decide. Now, the previous state member for Stafford, Dr Anthony Lynham, said he wouldn't do anything about it. Apparently he was against gambling as well. He wouldn't interfere. He wrote to the state saying that he did not approve of the gambling licence come through. Now, I'm pretty sure the current state member for Stafford hadn't even met with Crushers. Now, I need to explain, because he doesn't meet with anybody. I've requested 14 times in writing, and he can't even bother to respond. Now, I'll move on to Councillor Johnson, the councillor who knows...
Point of order, Chair.
Oh, point of order, Councillor Sri Ranganathan.
Will Councillor haven't taken a question?
No, I haven't got time. There's too much to do. So Councillor Johnson, who knows everything about the city, who's an expert on everything in the city, knows nothing. Because this site, the old Stafford Bowls Club, the Crushers site, is totally different from the Gibson Park Committee. Now, the Gibson Park Committee have a separate organisation which controls Padua.
One moment, Councillor Hammond. Point of order, Councillor Johnston.
Claimed to be misrepresented.
Claimed to be misrepresented.
I don't know how, because she said these subleases, how are they protected? Yes. Well, they're actually not subleases. Brainstorm here. It's actually Gibson Park Committee, which is Padua representatives, Padua College, the Stafford Cricket, and also the fabulous Brothers Rugby League Club. Now, we've had council officers have worked very closely with this, as have I, for a lot of years, against what Councillor Cassidy says. We've been working quite closely. In fact, Gibson Park Committee had to do a realignment on their boundaries to give the site extra land so they could go ahead with their development application. The Gibson Park Committee have been talking very strongly with Crushers or, the Brisbane Racing Corporation to organise all these things. They've negotiated quite well. The Gibson Park Committee are absolutely, I just spoke to them again today, absolutely over the moon that they're getting getting $200,000 a year help with their fields. We're talking about extra work with their lighting, which is not a cost to council. They're working so close together, they're rapt that they've come in. They can work with this organisation, they're going to get so much benefit out of it. And again, they are not a sublease. They've actually got a lease of their own, and they work very, very hard to contain that. So, Councillor Sri Ranganathan, I hope that's better, sorry. I'm not doing that disrespectfully, I will practice. I am concerned too that it took 4 years for something to happen on the site. I am concerned of the state government's absolute incompetency to actually getting a transfer of a liquor licence over sooner, and also the gambling licence still hasn't arrived. I'm absolutely devastated that the previous state member for Stafford lied to the community, lied to the group, and said he wouldn't do anything about it when it's in writing, where he absolutely opposed that going ahead. I'm upset that this current state member for Stafford His office actually said when the building was broken into that they don't control the police, and that the community should actually ring the police themselves instead of actively getting involved, especially when this group is only approximately 400 metres from the state member's office, which is completely disgusting. I fully support this lease. About time it's happening. The community are so excited that it's finally happening. Can't wait till they can start using it in April next year. And again, Gibson Park Committee, again, when I spoke to them today, are over the moon. They are going to have the best sporting fields on the north side of Brisbane. Watch out, Valleys. I love Valleys, but your fields are amazing. But look what Brothers and the Gibson Park Committee are going to do with theirs. These fields and separate lease Gibson Park Committee are used all year round. So they've got the summer cricket. I don't know how you can play cricket in summer in this state, but summer cricket and also winter football, touch football, and all the other activities that happen on this site. So I'd like to thank the administration, and I can't wait to have this site activated finally. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hammond. Councillor Johnston claimed to be misrepresented.
Yes, look, it sometimes is a bit hard to understand Councillor Hammond, but she did say that I said some things about the Gibson Park Committee. I didn't refer to them at all in my speech.
Further debate. Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Mr Acting Chair. I'd like to rise to speak in support of item A, which is, as previously was mentioned, is the assignment of the lease of the former Stafford Bowls Club at 352 Stafford Road from Crushers Leagues Club Limited to Brisbane Racing Club Limited. Just thought that I should make that very clear. We've just heard from the local councillor, and how fortunate are they to have such a strong advocate. I'll start off with Councillor Cassidy's comment that they supported this in 2019. What do you suppose happened just after 2019? I think there was a pandemic. I think that a lot of our sporting clubs suffered severely. And, you know, these Crushers have been working very hard to be able to put something together. They haven't been able to do that. They've talked to Brisbane Racing Club, and as previously been mentioned, due to those successes, the previously successful lessee, which was given a 20-year lease, has been unable to enact and unable to take the reactivation. So Councillor Johnson was adding up and not really getting to the right number, because BRC has requested an extension of an additional 3 years to make it 20 years, as the lease was when it started in 2019. So the additional 3 years will make it 20 years. I think we've already covered Gibson Park in that is not part of this. So through you, Mr Chair.
Please continue, Councillor Howard.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Johnson, please.
You know, it's wonderful when other people can stand up and be listened to carefully, and we are not given the same respect. So, Council is proposing to enter into an agreement with the incoming lessee that is not only able to reactivate this community facility, which is the Bowls Club, and I need to make that very clear that what we're talking about is the assignment of the lease of the Stafford Bowls Club. So it's the Bowls Club and the bowling green, nothing to do with the Gibson Park Committee. And as it relates to that Stafford Bowls Club facility, I understand that the incoming lessee estimates that the operation of this facility will create approximately 60 new employment opportunities in the local area, and we're very supportive of that taking place. In order to achieve this, Brisbane Racing Club have committed to investing approximately $7.5 million into the renovation and the upgrade of 352 Stafford Road, delivering a revitalised community hub to be used by locals, social members and sporting clubs in the area. This really is a genuinely significant investment into the local area, and is a commitment that is approximately $3 million more than the investment committed by the previous lessee. Brisbane Racing Club also have significant project management experience as it relates to the delivery of large-scale infrastructure projects like these, so we are confident in their project management capability to deliver this revitalisation. In regard to committing to supporting sport within the local area, Brisbane Racing Club have also agreed to honour the commitment to the Gibson Park Committee. For those who are unaware, the Gibson Park Committee exists to manage and improve the facilities at Gibson Park for the benefit of members and the broader public, and to encourage other organisations with similar goals to use Gibson Park. The committee currently comprises of 3 members, those being Stafford District Cricket Club, Padua College and Brothers Junior Rugby League Football Club, all of whom play a significant role in fostering sport being played at the site. The lease before us today will see a minimum of $200,000 per annum provided to the local community for the first 20 years of the lease through the Gibson Park Committee, which represents a significant financial investment into sports and recreational activities undertaken at the site. While some in this chamber will be unable to resist criticising the appointment of this lessee, as we have seen, we see it as important to remind those here today of what impact this decision will have, not only in reactivating and revitalising a community hub for all to enjoy, but to also foster and develop local sport in the area. I recommend item A to the chamber.
Thank you, Councillor Howard. Further debate? No further debate? Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Just briefly, thank you to the councillors who contributed to this debate. Particular thanks to my colleagues, Councillor Hammond and Councillor Howard, for bringing some common sense to a debate that has taken an interesting turn. Sadly, some of the comments, while I was disappointed in them, wasn't particularly surprised. Now, we heard, and we're not surprised, that Councillor Sri is against horse racing and that he's against gambling. Some may think that he has quite a puritanical view of life, which is interesting because both of those activities are perfectly legal. It comes down to individual choice, and we all have a right to express our opinion on them, as he is doing, but it is the law of the land at the moment that these things are legal activities, and there are plenty of Aussies that like horse racing, and there are plenty of Aussies that like to take a punt. But for someone who's expressing quite puritanical views on horse racing, I'm quite surprised that Councillor Sri advocates illegal squatting. He advocates break and enter. He advocates shoplifting. He advocates vandalism of public assets like CCTV cameras.
Lord Mayor, point of order. Councillor Sri Ranganathan.
Relevant? Like to the lease. A general attack on a councillor is just relevant to the lease now?
Lord Mayor, I'd bring you back to the report.
Well, Councillor Sri is talking about good and evil here. We all heard him. He claimed that the Brisbane Racing Club was evil. He's talking about good and evil. Well, he's entitled to that view, but I think it's actually evil to encourage people to break the law. I think that is a problem, but maybe that's just me. Maybe we live in a different world these days where the law doesn't matter. That's not really a world that I see as a positive thing. And so Councillor Sri is railing against perfectly legal activities while at the same time encouraging people to break the law in other areas. I think that is a fair degree of hypocrisy and should be a great deal of concern to many people in the community. What we see here is really simply the racing club has stepped in to provide what will deliver significant community benefits, 60 jobs and support for 3 different organisations that really need that support. We've heard that unfortunately Crushers was not able to achieve the outcome that they wanted to, and a part of that was the long delay with state government approvals and liquor licensing, which is disappointing. Look, I simply think that this is a sensible outcome and one that will see an organisation giving back to the community. And that's what is happening here. Now, I mentioned that gambling and horse racing were legal. And because they are legal, there is a process by which the proceeds of gambling and horse racing go through governments, various governments, and they get funneled back into the community. In areas where horse racing or gambling is illegal, these things generally happen anyway, but there's no community return. We've seen that in the past. And so this is a structured way of ensuring that the industry is able to put back into the community. And there's various state government programs as well that take proceeds from gambling and redirect it into the community. And those proceeds from gambling also pay significant taxes and levies to the state government, which then get used to fund community services. So there's definitely various ways in which the racing industry, whether people like it or not, is contributing back to our community. And the Brisbane Racing Club has done a lot of that, and they're proposing to do a lot more.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I will now put the motion for the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it.
Division.
Division called by Councillor Johnston and Councillor Cumming. Ayes to my right, noes to my left. Clerks, please ring the bells. Clerk, so I please have the tally.
Mr Chair, the ayes have it, the voting being 15 in favour and 5 against.
The ayes have it. Please go back to your seats. Lord Mayor, Establishment Coordination Committee recommendations.
Mr Chair, I move that the report of the recommendations of the Establishment and Coordination Committee during the spring recess 2022 on matters usually considered by that committee be adopted.
Seconded.
Moved by the Lord Mayor, seconded by Councillor Hutton, that the report of the recommendations of the Establishment and Coordination Committee during the spring recess 2022 on matters usually considered by that committee be adopted. Lord Mayor.
Just a point of order before we move into the debate. I ask that item B be taken seriatim for debate and voting purposes and be debated after items A, C and D. I also want to point out that I have a declarable conflict of interest in clause B. As everyone knows, I'm a member of the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team, and Hutchinson's Builders Pty Ltd has made donations in the past to the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team, totalling $25,000 within the relevant period.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Before other councillors declare, because we now have seriatim on item B, and the Lord Mayor is wishing to debate and vote on items A, C and D, for the convenience of the chamber, we will debate and vote on items A, C and D first, and then we will move to item B and any necessary declarations. Lord Mayor.
Thank you. So moving then to items A, C and D. Item A is the Stores Board submission for the significant contracting plan for library collection services. This item seeks Council's approval to go to tender for Council's physical and digital library collections, which is obviously a core component of our library services. Council's library collection has more than 1.7 million items, which includes approximately 500,000 digital resources as well. There were more than 9.3 million loans or downloads from our libraries last year, including more than 3.7 million in-person visits. Library Services maintains a relatively stable size, age and condition of collections through ongoing acquisition of new items and the removal of content which is outdated, damaged, or in the case of digital, expired. The submission today is seeking Council approval to tender 4 separate categories of work. These include physical materials, print serials, specialist material and digital content. In total, these categories cover the entirety of our library collection and include some of the following: all genres of books, CDs and DVDs, subscriptions to magazines and newspapers, books in languages other than English, ebooks, audiobooks, digital magazines and music. The tender will be released to the market, assuming approval of this item later this week, and will close in November. Item C is the contracts and tendering report for August 2022. Two notable contracts in this particular report include the Ferry Terminal Flood Recovery Package, particularly the repair to the Regatta and North Quay ferry terminals, including gangway repair, including new mesh panels, external panels and cladding repair, new balustrades, signage and electrical work. Also, the Wadeville Street Ritchie Road upgrade, stage 1A, and this project is about making sure our suburbs have the upgraded infrastructure to cater with the growth that we're experiencing. The project will particularly improve access to the Pilar Estate School. Work includes a right turn facility at the school, a crossing point on Ritchie Road and a new bus stop near the school as well. Item D is a significant contracting plan for ICT professional services. This item seeks to allow Council to access the Queensland Government's pre-qualified supplier panel for ICT services and suppliers. So this panel was established in 2013 by the State Government. Does not expire and is regularly refreshed, most recently in July this year. Council is in the delivery phase of multiple large programs of work related to ICT investment that will transform and optimise service delivery, including the Enterprise Resource Planning Digital Program, or ERP Digital Program. The authority to use the state's existing panel will allow us to access a larger pool of suppliers at a time when the IT market is experiencing labour shortages, and it will also help improve procurement efficiency with reduced tendering and contract development time and cost to Council. Thank you, Mr Chair.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Further debate? Councillor.
Mr Chair, I move that Council now adjourn for afternoon tea for 15 minutes, which commences only when all councillors have vacated the chamber and the doors have been locked.
Seconded.
Moved by Councillor Landers, seconded by Councillor Hutton, that we adjourn for afternoon tea. After all councillors have vacated the chamber and the doors are closed, all in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. We are in debate about E&C recommendations. The Lord Mayor has spoken. Is there any further debate? Councillor Cassidy.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. On A, C and D?
Yep.
That's correct, yeah. So can I just ask that C and D be taken seriatim for voting together? So it'll be A by itself, then C and D?
Sure.
Together. So initially, the significant contracting plan for library collections and services will be supporting this item. Before us, it's pretty straightforward. There are some items in here that are commercial in confidence in terms of the dollar figures and amounts in there for that goes out to the market. But broadly speaking, we support this item in having our libraries have collections, digital, physical. So yes, we'll be supporting that item. Item C, the contracts and tendering report before us today. You know, my long-standing view, and it shouldn't be any surprise to councillors in here around the approach that this administration is taking to suburban investment and contracting out here is reflected in here. The contract number 7, which is for $356,000, almost $357,000, is interesting. It's the provision of disaster and emergency management systems and services. You know, you would want that to be an improvement on what we have had. We've heard the Lord Mayor talk a lot today about emergency management, the systems, the warning system in which Council runs. There's not a lot of information in here about this item before us today. We certainly hope that it's an improvement on Council's systems before us today, and perhaps it might have some training involved in it, or maybe the Lord Mayor could undertake the training that have been offered to councillors and their ward office staff in what level of government is responsible for what, because we know that in a pandemic and in a health disaster, it's very clearly defined that the state government is a lead agency. But in a flood emergency like we saw in February this year, that councils are the lead agencies in disaster recovery and disaster management while they are happening. They're the lead agency, and the Lord Mayor should know that. So we certainly hope that whatever this is before us today, this emergency management system and services, assists the Lord Mayor in doing his very basic job when it comes to managing a disaster that our city may well face again in the coming months. Item D, the Stores Board submission for the ICT professional services. We on this one remain once bitten, twice shy when it comes to contracting these services out to the private sector. Now, some services, when it comes to IT, when it comes to program licensing and specific services, are best delivered by the private sector, and we accept that. But when you have a situation where council's own capability is no longer there to properly plan around and deliver these contracts to the ratepayers of Brisbane, like we've seen in the past, like the Technology One contract a couple of years ago, which initially blew out by tens of millions of dollars and then had to be cancelled, and then all of these IT systems that the residents of Brisbane were relying on without realising it, in terms of the contact centre, in terms of workflow management, in terms of project management within council, and reporting of issues out in the community, whether they're potholes or trees need trimming or broken footpaths, were left to wither away with no solutions. And we've seen that continue to get worse under this administration's approach to contracting out basic services. So when you don't even have a fully staffed and fully capable ICT department in council that is able to manage this work, we see that the political decisions then that this administration makes end up landing in terms of cost overruns and delays, and then deferred and cancelled projects on the laps of ratepayers. So until this administration can get council's own IT and ICT teams up to speed and properly staffed, then these projects are always going to face delays and cost blowouts and not deliver good value for money for the residents of Brisbane.
Thank you. Further speakers? Any further speakers on items A, C or D? Councillor Johnston.
Yes, thank you. I rise to speak on. Yes, thank you. I rise to speak on items A, C and D, and I will start with item C. Like Councillor Cassidy, I noticed funding flowing through the E&C report for some disaster management. I think it's probably the wrong word, but I want to start with a couple of the items. The first one is contract one. $267,000 is being allocated for provision of a volunteer management support solution. Now that sounds like something to do with the Mud Army to me. Now I might be wrong, but the Lord Mayor's not here. The Deputy Mayor's off on her junket for the Olympics, and there's nobody left here to explain what this item is before us today. So I will presume that this is some sort of Mud Army type report. I guess the questions that I've got is, in the De Jersey review, recommendation 413 recommended that the Mud Army was reviewed by the 31st of August 2022. Now that's 2 months ago, essentially. We've heard nothing from the Lord Mayor about the outcome of that review, not a single thing. I know it's something that I wrote several pages on in my response to De Jersey, former Chief Justice Paul De Jersey, but if this review has been done by Brisbane City Council, the outcome has not been provided to councillors and no public discussion of it has taken place. Now, this contract was due to have started on the 12th of September, and it's supposed to run for 3 years and up to 5 years. So presumably, Council has now outsourced management of the Mud Army response to Rosterfly Proprietary Limited. Now, if I'm wrong, I welcome someone standing up. Even the relevant chairperson, Councillor Cunningham's not here. So there's not a single person. Oh, sorry, she's over there. Okay, yep, she's at the back of the room. I see it. Not in a seat, but she is over there talking to Councillor Wines. Yeah. So maybe she'll stand up and tell us what the outcome of the Mud Army review was that Paul de Jersey asked for. I mean, the Lord Mayor stands up and says we're doing all of those things, but he doesn't ever report on what they are. Maybe someone will stand up and tell us who Rosterfly Proprietary Limited are and what they're going to do with their $267,000 over the next possibly 5 years, because it's very odd. I don't know. What I do know is that twice now, in 2011 and 2022, management of the Mud Army by Brisbane City Council under the leadership of Councillor Krista Adams has been a complete failure, and in 2011 for different reasons than in 2022. But so far, in response to the complete failure of this Mud Army response, which is critical to help residents to recover from a flood, there has been absolute silence from the Lord Mayor. Now we find that he's outsourcing this to some sort of unknown private company called Rosterfly. Well, who are they? What do they do? What's the scope of the brief? What are we going to get for our money? What are the outcomes? What are the KPIs? How do we track whether they're delivering? Is Councillor Adams involved? Because I should say that should be a deal breaker for anybody.
Point of order, Mr Chair.
Point of order to you, Councillor.
Can I just say that the Mud Army, I don't think was mentioned anywhere, and that just to answer Councillor Johnston, it is not the Mud Army, so just put that on.
Councillor Howard, you do have the opportunity to participate in this debate where you can make that point. Councillor Johnston, you have the floor.
The provision of a volunteer management solution, nothing to do with the Mud Army. That's great to know. So then that leaves I mean, of course, the relevant chair couldn't hop up and say, and the Lord Mayor couldn't hop up and say. But you know, I mean, we got the lecture from Councillor Howard earlier, how she listens respectfully to people and doesn't interject. But what did she just do? Exactly the same thing. So anyway, let me just move on to the next one, which is provision of disaster and emergency management system and services. Now, presumably that is related to the floods. I mean, maybe Councillor Howard's going to hop up again. And again, we've got another really unclear organisation here. Harvey Asia Pacific Limited, $274,500. Now, we don't know what that's for. We don't know the scope of the works. We don't know the outcome. And there is a real problem with the fact that council is not being transparent with this. I mean, it may be some sort of software, because the $247,000, I don't know if that's per year for 15 years or whether that's over the 15 years. It's a bit hard to tell, because the other bids are $13 million and $10 million from KPMG, but we've gone with Harvey Asia Pacific for $274,000 for a contract over 15 years. So what's that for? What's that for? Now, the key outcome of the de Jersey report was to make sure that councillors were included in the process of making sure we were part of the community response. Brisbane City Council has categorically failed over the last several months to communicate with councillors. I've had one council officer, two of them came, but one meeting. When I've asked for help, they've said no. I had come out a few weeks ago, and when I asked them to respond to two specific questions, they told me they would, and they have not. These are the people who were responsible for the council flood review, who sat in my office, with me and my staff
Point of order.
and looked me in the face.
Councillor Wines.
Mr Chair, look, while these matters may be relevant elsewhere, they are not relevant here. And can I just ask, the point of order is effectively relevance. Meetings from City Resilience are not relevant to the contract and tendering item before us.
Councillor Wines. Councillor Johnston, yes, can I bring you back to the item before us, specifically to the contract and tendering report, please?
Okay, Mr Chairman. Can you tell me what the provision of disaster and emergency management system and services is in Contract 7? Who's responsible for that? Could it be the head of Council's disaster team, who is the disaster coordinator for the City of Brisbane? I mean, do you think maybe that the provision of disaster emergency management systems and services might be relevant to the two most senior council officers who are responsible for delivering it? But that's okay. Councillor Wines doesn't think it's relevant. You, Mr Chairman, don't think it's relevant. Well, I do. I do, Mr Chairman, and unless you can tell me what that item's about, I'd be happy to defer if you know what it's about. But as far as I know, it says it's about running a disaster in that city, and the two most senior council officers responsible for that.
Point of order, Mr Chair. I feel like the council is ignoring your direction. There was a question about relevance, and she's continued to make statements in the same vein that she was earlier. Can I just ask that today is potentially going to be a very long meeting, and that we maintain our comments to the matters relevant to the paperwork in front of us.
Councillor Wines, you're now debating the point of order. Councillor Johnston, there aren't council officers mentioned here specifically. You've made your point. I think, though, that you should get back to the debate about the contracts and tendering report, please.
So the $274,000 500 contract is not actually going to be oversighted or managed by council officers. That's essentially what you've just said to me. It's got nothing to do with council officers. Is that right, Mr Chairman? That you don't think council officers in this place are responsible for managing council contracts? Because that's what this is. So this is all a matter of accountability and transparency when it comes to flood recovery. And the administration over there just don't get it. And we can see from Councillor Wines, we can see from the chairman himself that they don't want us talking about this. What are these contracts then? Why are they going out to these unusual groups? Why is there no discussion with us about what they're about? How is it going to deliver on the Jersey reviews? How is it going to improve things for the community on the ground? We don't know, and that is fundamentally the point. And no amount of intervention by Councillor Wines and attempted clean-up on aisle 15 by the chairman is going to fix the fact that this council is not delivering on the Jersey recommendations. Now, briefly on the other two items, obviously I support our libraries and I welcome the investment in our library services. We should be investing more in our library services. I think that would be important. Item D, which is the ICT professional services contract. This appears to be another attempt by this administration to outsource IT. That happened a few years ago and a lot of council officers lost their jobs. It is a little bit unclear here. Council's openly admitting it does not have the capability to deliver on major IT contracts, and we're going to piggyback on the back of the state government's ICT panel arrangements. My concern here is that this is outsourcing council capacity and services. It's critical that these are skills that we have in-house and can respond. It is very concerning to read in here that we're going to outsource the delivery of these ICT projects.
Councillor Johnston, your time has expired. Any further speakers? Councillor Wines.
No, thank you, Mr Chair. I just rise to speak to the contracts and tendering report before us today. And I just want to make some remarks regarding some of the comments that we've heard earlier today. As I said when I was raising the matters regarding relevance to the paperwork in front of us, these papers speak to contracts about items purchased to improve the service delivery of this council. They did not include gratuitous attacks on council officers. And largely that's what that was that we just heard. The two individuals named are professional and attentive council officers who've devoted a lot of time and effort to making sure that this council...
Point of order to you, Councillor Johnston.
You've told me it's irrelevant if I speak about them. So why is it suddenly relevant when Councillor Wines speaks about them, Mr Chairman? And are you going to apply the rule in the same way at Councillor Wines' request?
Well, Councillor Johnston.
Let me make a ruling, Councillor Wines. Thank you. Thank you. To your point of order, Councillor Johnston. Councillor Wines, can I bring you back to the report before us, please?
Thank you. As I say, of course, Mr Chair, and other than to say my compliments to those officers and their work. There was an attack on a rostering program for the Environmental Habitat volunteer program, where some councillors in this place have accused it of being a mud army rostering service. It is a service to manage our habitat clean-up volunteers. Rosterify is a relatively small contract, but it's about the provision of a volunteer management solution for our habitat centres, our environment centres and our creek clean-up teams. So it has nothing to do with the mud army, it has everything to do with the keen and committed volunteers who make sure that this city's waterways and environmental habitats remain beautiful, attractive and clean places. And can I also commend all those people who take the time to do that. The other item that was unfairly criticised was the IT improvement to ensure that disaster response in the future improves. Now, the whole objective of the range of reports and documents, the Jersey report, FRAP, is to make sure that we are better prepared in the future. So we buy IT products that make sure that we are better in the future, right? So the Jersey report identified that we had to have a review of the system completed, I think in August off the top of my head. The review's been completed and now we're buying software to ensure that the objectives of the review and that our own capacity are improved so that we can be more responsive in the future. Now, there has also been a pretty disgusting mistruth being peddled by Councillor Johnston that we have not been hitting our targets in the Jersey review. That is out and out false. True. That accusation is false. We have hit every mark that we have sought to hit and we are implementing every recommendation we seek to implement, and this is more evidence that we have taken the reports seriously, that we are reviewing our internal operational performance and ensuring we are better in the future. Right, so I just want to make sure that all councillors get it through their heads that we are hitting our marks on the Jersey review, right? Just understand that very simple statement, and we are hitting our marks, and we are hitting our marks on the Flood Resilience Action Plan, both of which work in cooperation to make sure we are more ready in the future. And that's what we're seeking support for today in these items, that we be more ready in the future.
Thank you. Further debate, items A, C and D. Any further debate? No? Lord Mayor? No? Okay, we have seriatim for all these items, if I understand correctly, C and D together and A separately. So we'll go to the vote first on item A. All in favour of item A in this report, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Items C and D together, all in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Division called by Councillor Cassidy and Councillor Strunk. Please ring the bells. Ayes to my right, noes to the left. Okay. Thank you, Clerk. Please read the results.
Mr Chair, the ayes have it, the voting being 19 in favour, 1 against and 3 abstentions.
Thank you. declare that item carried. Councillors, please return to your seats. We move to item B. Councillor Landers.
Point of order, Chair. I have a declarable conflict of interest in clause B. I'm a member of the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team. Hutchinson Builders Pty Limited has made donations to the Liberal Party of Queensland Council team totalling $25,000 within the relevant period.
Thank you. Point of order to you, Councillor Hutton.
Point of order, Chair. I have a declarable conflict of interest in clause B. I'm a member of the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team. Hutchinson's Builders Pty Ltd has made donations to the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team totalling $25,000 within the relevant period.
Thank you. Councillor Mackay.
Thank you, Chair. Point of order. I have a declarable conflict of interest in clause B. I'm a member of the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team. Hutchinson Builders Proprietary Limited has made donations to the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team totalling $25,000 within the relevant period.
Thank you. Councillor Hammond.
Point of order, Mr Chair. I have a declarable conflict of interest in clause B. I'm a member of the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team. Hutchinson's Builders Pty Ltd have made donations to the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team totalling $25,000 within the relevant period.
Thank you. Councillor Maddock.
Point of order, Chair. I have a declarable conflict of interest in clause B. I'm a member of the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team. Hutchinson Builders Proprietary Limited has made donations to the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team totalling $25,000 within the relevant period.
Thank you. Councillor Adderman.
Yeah, point of order, Chair. I have a declarable conflict of interest in clause B. I'm a member of the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team. Hutchinson Builders Proprietary Limited has made donations to the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team totalling $25,000 within the relevant period.
Thank you. Councillor Atwood.
Point of order, Chair. I have a declarable conflict of interest in clause B. I am a member of the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team. Hutchinson's Builders Pty Ltd has made a donation to the Liberal Party of Queensland Council team totalling $25,000 within the relevant period.
Thank you. Councillor Huang.
Yeah, point of order, Chair. I have a declarable conflict of interest in clause B. I'm a member of the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team. Hutchinson Builders Proprietary Limited has made donations to the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team totalling $25,000 within the relevant period.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Point of order, Chair. I have a declarable conflict of interest in clause B. I'm a member of the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team. Hutchinson Builders Proprietary Limited has made donations to the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team totalling $25,000 within the relevant period.
Thank you. Councillor Wines.
Point of order, Mr Chair. I have a declarable conflict of interest in item clause B. I'm a member of the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team, and Hutchison's Builders Pty Ltd have made donations to the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team totalling $25,000 within the relevant period.
Thank you. Councillor Marx.
Yes, thank you. Point of order, Chair. I have a declarable conflict of interest in clause B. I'm a member of the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team. Hutchinson Builders Pty Limited has made donations to the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team totalling $25,000 within the relevant period.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Point of order, Chair. I have a declarable conflict of interest in clause B. I am a member of the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team. Hutchinson Builders Proprietary Limited has made donations to the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team totalling $25,000 within the relevant period.
Thank you. Councillor Allen.
In clause B, I am a member of the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team. Hutchinson Builders Pty Limited has made donations to the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team totalling $25,000 within the relevant period.
Thank you. Councillor Cunningham.
Yes, thanks. Point of order, Mr Chair. I have a declarable conflict of interest in clause B. I'm a member of the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team. Hutchinson Builders Pty Ltd has made donations to the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team totalling $25,000 within the relevant period.
Thank you. Councillor Howard.
Point of order, Chair. I have a declarable conflict of interest in Clause B. I am a member of the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team. Hutchinson Builders Proprietary Limited has made donations to the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team totalling $25,000 within the relevant period.
Thank you. Councillor Toomey.
Thank you, Chair. Point of order. I also, too, make a declaration that I have a conflict of interest in Clause B. I'm a member of the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team. Hutchinson Builders Proprietary Limited has made a donation to the Liberal Party of Queensland Council team totalling $25,000 within the relevant period.
Thank you. Lord Mayor, you made a declaration earlier. I have a declarable conflict of interest in Clause B as well. I'm a member of the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team. Hutchinson Builders Proprietary Limited has made donations to the Liberal National Party of Queensland Council team totalling $25,000 within the relevant period. Now, Councillor Landers. Oh, sorry. Before we move on, are there any other declarations? No further declarations? Thank you. Councillor Landers.
Chair, I move that this chamber resolve that as a majority of councillors present have declared a conflict of interest in this matter, deciding this matter be delegated to the Chief Executive Officer in accordance with Section 238 of the City of Brisbane Act 2010.
Seconded.
Thank you. It has been moved by Councillor Landers and seconded by Councillor Hutton that as a majority of councillors present have declared a conflict of interest in this matter, that Council resolve that deciding this matter be delegated to the Chief Executive Officer in accordance with Section 238 of the City of Brisbane Act 2010. Is there any debate? Councillor Johnston.
Yes, I rise to...
Point of order, Mr Chair. Can I seek a ruling? This matter, a matter of referring a decision like this to the CEO is, in my view, a procedural matter and not an ordinary motion. Therefore, it really only requires a vote and a transfer because it is procedural nature and doesn't require a substantive debate.
Thank you, Councillor Wines. It has been past practice to allow debate on these motions in the past. I'll allow it to continue this time as well. Councillor Johnston.
There we go again. So the motion we're discussing here today is that all of the LNP councillors have received donations from Hutchinson's Builders, who are a big and very reputable Queensland construction and property company. But as a result of their the donations being accepted by them and their political party, a matter of business for the City of Brisbane cannot be discussed and decided. That is the outcome of what has happened here today. And it actually is very problematic today because this decision means there will be no public scrutiny at all of the issue for the City Reach Boardwalk Rehabilitation Project deck panel replacement at 443 Queen Street, because this was a decision decided without a tender by council officers. Now, as a result of the LNP's conflict of interest today, this matter is being delegated back to those same council officers who will make a decision with zero independent scrutiny by any elected official of this council. That is bad practice. That is bad practice. And what it shows is this council is run at the whim of the LNP and who they take money from. And that is bad for the governance of this city, it is bad for democracy in this city, and it is bad for the transparency of very big decision-making processes in Brisbane. It is absolutely unacceptable, in my view, that there is no tender for this contract, and then there is no scrutiny of it in E&C because they were all conflicted out, and now there can be no scrutiny of it here because they're all conflicted out. There are still 5 councillors in this place who could make a decision on this matter. And I think that it is unacceptable that the LNP wants to prevent public scrutiny of this issue with the conflict of interest that they've got. I think that the Lord Mayor has to take this up with the local government minister to make sure that there are changes so that there is transparency and public scrutiny of decision-making when a majority of councillors have conflicts of interest. Now, usually it's only Councillor Stree and myself who are left in the chamber. It seems that Hutchies aren't real keen on the ALP, so they're all still in the chamber. But there is an issue here. That has to be addressed, and that is council officers, without going to tender, should not be allowed to tick a project that's had no other scrutiny by anybody else. That's just unacceptable, and that's the outcome of what's going on here today. This is just wrong, wrong, wrong.
Mic on. We now put the motion. All in favour of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. No. The ayes have it. Okay. Councillors, we now move on to the next item before us, which is E&C Committee recess for information report. Lord Mayor, E&C Committee decisions in recess.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just finding the right spot. Here we go. Mr. Chair, I move that the report setting out the decisions of the Establishment and Coordination Committee as a delegate of Council during the spring recess 2022 on matters usually considered by that committee be noted.
Seconded.
Thank you. It has been moved by the Lord Mayor and seconded by Councillor Hutton that the report setting out the decisions of the Establishment and Coordination Committee as delegate of the Council during the spring recess 2022 on matters usually considered by that committee be noted. Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I deal with the item in front of us, I just wanted to point out that the BOM, or the Bureau, issued a thunderstorm warning alert at 3:39 p.m. and within minutes, our system, severe weather alert system, had started sending out messages to people. Councillors in this room started receiving those messages literally 2 minutes later. Mine was delayed somewhat. It came 5 minutes later. But the reality is, this just goes to show in action today with a notice that had been set up at 3:39, people are already receiving messages immediately. And it proves what I've been saying, which is our system is a good system, it's working, as opposed to emergency alert system, which in a best case scenario would take 6 hours for the whole of Brisbane to receive a message. Once again, an example, I guess, of why people should be signing up for the Brisbane Severe Weather Alerts if they're not already, because it provides very quick notification of any weather alerts, flood warnings and other related messages. Item A in front of us, the significant contracting plan for the provision of information technology services, management solution and services. The sole item in this information report is this SCP. This refers to activities including management of incidents, requests for technical support, knowledge and configuration management, and reporting that supports continuous improvement. Council deployed BMC's IT service management solution, known as Remedy on Demand, back in 2014. BMC Remedy was recently upgraded to the latest version that is known as Helix. BMC is the proprietary owner of the Helix software. The Helix solution is critical for the effective operation and management of council software, hardware and technology infrastructure. In addition, Helix is used as a service management tool for human resources, procurement and payroll functions as well. And while BMC has a network of resellers who can supply solutions and support, The benefits of dealing directly with the original equipment manufacturer include consistency in product, service and quality, as well as lowering licensing costs, effectively cutting out the middle person. With Council's existing contract expiring in December 2022, renegotiation presented an opportunity to refresh Council's contract, with the result being a number of favourable outcomes for Council. So we recommend the supporting of this SCP, or recommend the noting of this SCP. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Cassidy.
This item is only for noting or for information purposes. The decision's already been made by the Establishment and Coordination Committee. The same committee and council, Civic Cabinet, that decided to sack council's in-house IT workforce, outsource that to HCL, and then watch that company engage in a whole lot of wage theft. And it wasn't until the Services Union, stepped in to rectify that work. This is also the same Civic Cabinet that decided to engage in a contracting out exercise with Tech One, which ultimately cost the ratepayers of Brisbane tens of millions of dollars and then delivered nothing. So we just really don't have any faith in this administration's ability to manage these projects, given the amount of hollowing out they've done in terms of council's own capability in IT.
Thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Cunningham.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Chair. I rise just to speak very briefly on the significant contracting plan for the provision of information technology service management solution services. As the Lord Mayor said, Council deployed BMC's IT service management solution in 2014. The Helix solution, as it now is known, enables the management and automation of IT service management processes, leveraging best practice workflows for service delivery and adopting a process approach that focuses on the customer needs and the services rather than the systems. The renegotiation of this, Mr Chair, has achieved a number of better outcomes for Council and, as a result, for our ratepayers and residents. These include access to new functionality that improve user experiences, a flexible licensing model, and access to Brisbane-based training services. And there's also been a number of cost efficiencies achieved through this process, and I will commend it to the Chamber.
Thank you. Any further debate? Lord Mayor. Now put this motion for the vote. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Councillor Allen, City Planning and Suburban Renewal Committee decisions, please.
Mr Chair, I move that the report setting out the decisions of the Establishment and Coordination Committee as Delegate of Council during the spring recess 2022 on matters usually considered by the City Planning and Suburban Renewal Committee be noted.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Councillor Allen and seconded by Councillor Hammond that the report setting out the decisions of the Establishment and Coordination Committee as Delegate of Council during the spring recess 2022 on matters usually considered by the City Planning and Suburban Renewal Committee be noted. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr Chair. There was one item considered during recess. Item 8 is a petition requesting Council block any planned demolition of Monets at 299 Bowen Terrace New Farm and identify the building as local heritage. The property at 299 Bowen Terrace is zoned medium density residential and is included in the medium density living precinct in the New Farm and Tenerife Hill neighbourhood plan. Council takes the significance of heritage buildings and houses very seriously. As such, Council's strategic planning team reviewed the nominations for local heritage place listing and assessed the cultural heritage significance of the building against the criteria for cultural heritage significance as outlined in the Heritage Planning Scheme policy within Brisbane City Plan 2014. As a result of this assessment, the building did not satisfy the criteria for listing as a local heritage place. Specifically, the building did not have any special association to a person or social or community group, and due to early changes to the building's intactness, the style of the residence is neither a rare nor distinct example of its type when assessed against the criteria. Finally, it is noted that there are other interwar flats that are identified and protected in the City Plan's heritage overlay that satisfy the criteria and represent the story of the emergence of this style of multiple dwellings in inner Brisbane, especially New Farm. I can also confirm that a private certifier issued a building approval to demolish the building on the 17th of June 2021, and a subsequent approval extended the approval period for the demolition until the 30th of November 2022. A development application for multiple dwellings at 299 Bowen Terrace was also received by Council on the 13th of December 2021. I've been advised that the development application was approved by Council on the 29th of September 2022 after being assessed by Council's Development Services team against the requirements. Council's delegate took all assessment matters into account, including the issues raised by submitters, and concluded that the application was in accordance with the requirements of the City Plan. And on this particular item, I'll leave further debate to the chamber, but I did want to take the opportunity to provide a quick update on some of the statistics that are being generated out of development services. And look, it'd be fair to say that in the context of high-level development applications, our volumes are off a little bit compared to the previous 2 years. We have seen a slight deterioration in application volumes, but nonetheless, during July, we approved 309 development applications, followed by 366 in August, and then 376 in December. And I'll leave further debate to the chamber.
Is there any further debate? No further debate. We move to the vote on this. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. Councillor Howard, Community Arts and Nighttime Economy Committee decisions, please.
Mr Chair, I move that the report setting out the decisions of the Establishment and Coordination Committee as Delegate of Council during the spring recess 2022 on matters usually considered by the Community Arts and Nighttime Economy Committee be noted.
Seconded.
Thank you. It has been moved by Councillor Howard and seconded by Councillor Landers that the report setting out the decisions of the Establishment and Coordination Committee as Delegate of Council during the spring recess 2022 on matters usually considered by the Community Arts and Nighttime Economy Committee be noted. Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Mr Chair. There was one item that was considered, which was a petition requesting Council invest funding into community facilities in Annerley, including upgrading Annerley Library, undertaking a village precinct project to revitalise Annerley Junction Shopping Precinct, and revitalising Annerley Hall. The Council is committed to ensuring Annerley Library remains the vibrant facility for the community, and a regular maintenance program for the library is in place. Any additional maintenance works are undertaken as required to ensure the library remains a welcoming, safe and comfortable facility. The Council will continue to explore further enhancement opportunities for Annerley Hall to ensure the facility is a modern, functional facility for the community to utilise. And in terms of the Village Precinct project, we are looking at considering that as part of a future development of a Village Precinct project in program budget. Council's budget for the Village Precinct project delivery has been allocated in full for the 2020-24 program. So that information has been forwarded to the petitioners, and I'll leave debate to the chamber.
Is there any debate? Councillor Johnston.
Yes, I rise to speak on item A. And it just shows how mean-spirited the LNP administration is, that they secretly decided on this petition during the recess. They actually released the response a couple of weeks ago publicly, prior to it even coming for debate in this place. They don't care about this place as the governance and accountability place for the City of Brisbane. They made a decision. They don't care what the local councillors who represent this area think. Neither of us supported this petition response, and they just released it prior to it coming here. So it just shows you how much disregard that the LNP administration has for the people of Annerley. It's really, really sad to see. Annerley Library, by any measure, is out of date for its purpose. It is too small, way too small. There is no place or space in that library for any kind of event. You've literally got to move bookshelves out of the way so that you can have the Gold Star program in there. It is way, 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 way too small. And this is for one of the biggest suburbs in Brisbane. There's 5,600 households in Brisbane. And you know, Fairfield Library's down the road. Yeah, it's a big suburb, very big suburb. Fairfield Library down the road also doesn't have function space. And then just up the road in West End, they don't even have a toilet. So the three closest libraries to here, they're all too small. None of them are getting any investment from council. And they're ignoring the needs of a very large part of the southern suburbs of Brisbane. The toilet is third world standard. And it's not because the library staff don't do their best, it is because the facility is ancient and the toilet is not fit for purpose anymore. And this has been raised, you know, I'm not the councillor in this area any longer, but when I was, it got raised all the time, and I know that it is an issue that comes up with Councillor Griffiths as well. So it is just very sad to see the LNP administration secretly behind closed doors making a decision that says to the people of Annerley, yep, nah, we're not going to do anything for your library. We think it's a vibrant facility. It's vibrant because of the people who work in there, but it's definitely not a vibrant or suitable space for the work that they do. And that is where this administration is letting the people of Annerley down. The other issue, of course, is the hall. Well, good for you, Councillor Howard. It's had a lick of paint. That's just excellent. Thank you so much for that. We know, however, when it comes to the village precinct projects, now I think it's about 5 years ago they started, and they were announced in the budget to replace the skips, but only the LNP councillors knew that they were being announced in the budget. So LNP projects got funded, and I think maybe one in Inala got funded as well. So I did a petition straight away because Annerley Junction is desperate for a village precinct project, or as a skip as it was then. It has been in my local budget submission for 14 years. Every year since I've been a councillor. And it has been 4 years since the petition was considered in this place and the Annerley Village Precinct project was added to the capital works list. Are we actually seeing any action from this council at all? None. Councillor Griffith got a couple of 100 metres of footpath through Annerley Junction, but the side of the road I represent still got the same old uneven dangerous footpath. Meanwhile, council wants to put more buses into a spot, and I actually, it's fascinating because, you know, when the bus people did finally come out and talk to me, they basically talked about how Annerley Junction was going to be getting all these extra buses from the improved frequency of the 100 and I think the 124 and the 125 from memory and some others. And they went on to talk about how they were upgrading all the platforms at the cultural centre and other places to increase their capacity. And I said, oh, well, what are you doing in the suburban places, like Annerley Junction, to upgrade the footpaths so that you've got a safe place for buses to pull up? What do you mean, councillor? I'm like, well, you're going to be putting, you know, dozens more buses a day down Ipswich Road, so how are you improving the bus infrastructure where all these buses are going to pull up? Oh, that's not part of the scope of the project, councillor. I'm like, this is what this administration doesn't get. This environment in Annerley is a hugely busy one. It carries through traffic, it carries local traffic. We need our community facilities to be upgraded. It is just so disappointing that the usual response by the LNP is too bad, so sad, we're not going to do it. There's no investment in the future of village precincts projects in this area. I think that, you know, in recognition of what council says it wants to do with its own bus network review, investing in a village precinct project here to support the intensified bus interchange for Annerley that's going to happen at this site for the 100. And by interchange, I mean there's going to be about 6 or 8 different routes coming through here. It'd be great to see some sort of investment in the community facilities. And the fact that this council can't see that that is needed in a suburb that is divided by one of the most dangerous roads in Brisbane is really disappointing. So this is a do-nothing response by this administration. I know that Councillor Griffiths feels the same way about this. You know, 650 residents signed this petition. And I can tell you every single day they are asking for improvements in Annerley, and every single day Councillor Griffiths and I have to say to them, the Lord Mayor refuses to fund works in Annerley. And it is so disappointing to see everywhere else in Brisbane. You know, I recently was over in Ashgrove, and the shiny footpaths up in Ashgrove as part of their village precinct were just astonishing. You walk into Annerley and it looks like it's from a third world country. So, you know, we don't have decent toilets for the library. The library doesn't even have any kind of meeting space, and the footpaths look like they're, you know, 50, 60 years old, which they probably are. So it's just so disappointing to see this
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Point of order to you, Councillor Toomey.
Just to correct Councillor Johnson, the concrete footpaths in Ashgrove are red.
That's not a point of order, Councillor Toomey. Sorry. Come on, please.
I'm pretty sure Councillor Howard will want to jump up and say how disrespectful Councillor Toomey's going to be. I'll just see if she wants to do that.
Councillor Toomey, please. Come on.
No, nothing from Councillor Howard about how disrespectful Councillor Toomey is?
Councillor Johnston, please. I've given you the floor.
Just checking. I mean, I know Councillor Howard's made a big deal
Councillor
about
Johnston,
it today.
are you going to continue debate or not?
I do, don't I? Councillor Howard says that I interrupt people, but when the LNP do it, it's perfectly acceptable. So, look, I will finish here. It is just unacceptable that Council will do nothing in this part of Annerley. A lick of paint on the hall is really not good enough for a community that has been neglected for 14 years, that I've represented it, and longer for Councillor Griffith. And it is time that this Lord Mayor goes. He does not represent the views of all the people of Brisbane. He certainly does not represent and support the views of Annerley residents, and Council's appalling response to this petition today demonstrates that the LNP have forgotten the people of Annerley, and I think it's to the great shame that they are failing to invest in just fundamental improvements to community life in this grand historic suburb of Brisbane.
Thank you. Further debate? No further debate. Councillor Howard, summing up.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Well, both Councillors Johnson and Griffith are well aware of the significance of the Annerley Library as a local heritage place, as recognised by the Brisbane City Plan 2014 and included within the Heritage Overlay. Designed in 1956, it is the only remaining functional, purpose-built library and landscape setting designed by the distinguished Brisbane City Council architect James Birrell. We remain dedicated to ensuring the ongoing protection of Annerley Library as an important part of Brisbane's heritage. And just to be clear, Mr Chair, Labor's policy is to demolish libraries. Our policy is to build and protect libraries.
Thank you. Councillor Howard, we now move to the vote on this report. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. No. The ayes have it.
Division.
Division's been called by Councillors Johnston and Cassidy. Please ring the bells. Ayes to the right, noes to the left. Thank you. Clerks, please read the results.
Mr Chair, the ayes have it, the voting being 18 in favour and 5 against.
Thank you. I declare that motion carried. Councillors, please return to your seats. Councillors, I draw to your attention the notice of motion at item 8 on the agenda. Councillor Hutton, will you please move the motion?
Sure. The motion reads that Council change the commencement time of the ordinary Council meeting to be held on the 1st of November 2022 from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m.
Is there a seconder?
Seconded.
Thank you. It has been moved by Councillor Hutton and seconded by Councillor Huang that Council change the commencement time for the ordinary Council meeting to be held on 1 November 2022 from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Is there any debate?
Point of order.
Point of order, Councillor.
Just given that several LNP councillors declared a conflict of interest earlier with respect to the racing industry, given that this is about the reason that you're doing this is because of racing, should those councillors be declaring a conflict of interest and absencing
Councillor
themselves
Johnson,
now?
it's a frivolous point of order. It's not a point of order. Councillor Hutton.
Thank you, Chair. Shall I wait, Chair? Chair, this is a fairly straightforward motion which requests the support of the councillors in this chamber to start the meeting next week at 2:30 p.m, delaying the council meeting to allow the council chamber members to observe the Melbourne Cup, a long-standing tradition which we intend to keep alive.
Thank you. Is there further debate? Councillor Cassidy.
Thanks, Chair. In recent years, when these motions have come, it's been delaying the start of the meeting by half an hour. But the Lord Mayor changed the timings of our committee meetings and of our council meeting to make them more family friendly, to make the start time of the meeting at 1 p.m, to reduce the time, the lateness, I suppose, that the meeting should potentially go. So given that's the case, I don't think now it's appropriate that council is delayed for an hour and a half. So councillors may choose if they want. There's no function, as far as I'm aware, for councillors to go to. I suppose if they can find a TV in the Lord Mayor's office or go to a bar or a pub or something, or a screen somewhere in the mall maybe, to go and watch it, a 5-minute race. It's really not appropriate anymore that council would be delayed an hour and a half. What the administration could do, they've got the numbers, they're going to pass this today, but they could always adjourn the meeting for 15 minutes. We could start at 1, get through most of that, adjourn for 15 minutes. They could go into the Lord Mayor's office, watch. Yeah, we could do that. We could do the afternoon tea break at the time. There are more appropriate ways of doing it than delaying the start time of the democratically elected body, of the decision-making body of the residents of Brisbane, by an hour and a half. It's a bit of a stretch these days. We have in the past supported the delay by half an hour, but given the serious issues that this city is facing, I just don't think it's appropriate that a council meeting is delayed for an hour and a half just for a horse race to be watched.
Thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Johnston.
Yes, thank you, Mr Chairman. Through you to Councillor Hutton. No, you don't have my support for this. It is appalling that council wants to delay the council meeting by an hour and a half. There is absolutely no reason for this to happen because of the changes to the meeting times that were brought in by the LNP. We could absolutely undertake the meeting. If you miss the Melbourne Cup, you can watch it back later when you get home in your own time. But we have statutory obligations and we should be here to participate in the meeting wherever we can. And it is just appalling that the LNP are having a good time, probably some sort of boozy lunch in the Lord Mayor's office, over doing their job in the council chamber. And I would just say that, like Councillor Cassidy, there was clearly another solution here if they did want to do this, which is to move afternoon tea at a time when you could watch the race. That would mean we could save money on no catering for afternoon tea. You could watch the race for 15 or 20 minutes, which is the afternoon tea break, because what's going to happen when we come back? 2:30 the meeting starts. What, are we going to have a cup of tea at 3 o'clock, Councillor Hutton? And then are we going to meet for 2.5 hours and then go to the dinner break at 6 o'clock if we haven't actually got through all our work? And we're going to have an hour off between 6 and 7. Do you think that maybe doing this is a problem because it's going to disrupt the running of the meeting? It means things are longer, more complicated for the staff. They have to stay later if there are complex matters on the agenda. I think the selfishness of the LNP in doing this and forcing their views about what should happen onto the council chamber just so they can watch this horse race is not good enough. They are out of touch. The Lord Mayor has to go. The LNP has stopped governing the city and they are running this place to suit themselves.
Point of order, Chair.
Point of order.
Just on relevance, I think you're starting to stray a little bit from the subject of the motion.
I'm allowing the debate to continue. Councillor Sri Ranganathan.
Well,
Councillors, please.
Councillor Sri, have you changed your views on the evil racing club, have you? And are you really supportive now of the evil racing club that you just stood up and had to go out for the last 10 minutes? So, yeah, thanks so much for your contribution.
Councillors, order, please.
But I want to be very clear that I know. I mean, I'm surprised Councillor Howard is not on her feet again, saying it's outrageous that Councillor Johnson's not being listened to in silence. I mean, surely, Councillor McLaughlin, you want to make sure Councillor Howard can be heard. I mean, she's very quick to criticise me, but when people do exactly what she says about me,
Councillor Johnston,
to me, she doesn't say anything.
Point of order, Chair.
Councillor Murphy.
Hypocrisy.
Point of order.
I know Councillor Johnson was carrying on about selfishness before. I know she wouldn't want to be selfish by consuming 10 times more time in this meeting than anyone else who's spoken today. So can she please conclude her remarks so we can vote on this item?
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Johnson, you still have the floor. Please.
Yeah, I do.
Please
and I've got
conclude.
7 minutes to go. Councillor Murphy.
3 minutes.
And I'm going to use every 7 minutes of it now. So thank you so much for your contribution here today. You're not hopping up and saying you think this is a good idea. Why don't you go on the record and share with your constituents why you think you should start work later? Look, I just don't think this is a good idea. The LNP have got this wrong. Clearly, Councillor Sri is going to vote for it, so you know that's interesting. Sorry, Sri Ranganathan. I don't support this. I don't support what the LNP is doing. It is just so representative of the fact that they don't care how this council runs anymore. They do what they want, not what is in the best interest of this city. And taking an hour and a half off your job to go and watch a race, a horse race, is completely unnecessary, particularly when we'll come back, there'll be a afternoon tea break and a dinner break, and that just disrupts everything. It's just not appropriate. And I just want to thank the Chair very much for making sure all those people who interjected all the way through my speech, all the way through there, were called up and told not to do it, because I know that the Chair of Council today has made an effort to reprimand me for interjecting here and there, but I do note that he's on the record now of not doing the same when I'm repeatedly interrupted.
Is there any further debate? Councillor Sri Ranganathan.
Thanks, Chair. Just really briefly to say once again, I think it's contemptible that the council administration is delaying the meeting to watch a horse race. This is a form of animal abuse. It's morally bankrupt, and I think the people of Brisbane are right to be disappointed that their elected representatives are wasting time on something like this. I also share the concerns of other councillors in this chamber that the shifted schedule of council meetings means that this is going to make for a very interrupted afternoon, and I would much prefer that the council at the very least just start the meeting at the normal time and then adjourn briefly. This is quite ridiculous that we're expected to delay by a solid 90 minutes, so I'll leave it at that, but I won't be supporting this motion.
Thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Hutton, summing up? No? We now move to the vote on this motion. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. No. The ayes have it. Thank you. Councillors, petitions. Are there any petitions? Councillor Cunningham.
Thanks, Mr Chair. I have two petitions. One requesting a parcel of land at Cooperoo be named Pat Clark Ryan Park, and the other requesting a section of Cooperoo Creek Park be named Wallace Place.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I have
Councillor
a petition.
Hammond, sorry. Yep.
Petition requesting traffic calming.
Thank you. Further petitions? Any further petitions? Councillor Murphy.
Thanks, Chair. I have a petition requesting council build traffic calming in the form of a road hump on Larinia Street, Mansfield, to reduce the speed, frequency and noise level of traffic using this street, signed by 38 petitioners.
Thank you. Any further petitions from the floor? Oh, yes. Councillor Landers, are you about to move a motion?
Yeah.
I have a petition to present first. Petition in relation to a development application at 44 Wooloowin Avenue. Thank you, Councillor Landers.
Very good. Mr Chair, I move that the petitions as presented be received and referred to the committee concerned for consideration and report.
Second.
Who was that? Who seconded? Oh, over there, sorry. Thank you, Councillor Strunk. It's been moved by Councillor Landers and seconded by Councillor Strunk that all petitions as presented be received and referred to the committees concerned for consideration and report. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Councillors, general business. Are there any statements required as a result of an Office of the Independent Assessor or Councillor Ethics Committee order? No one standing. Are there any matters of general business? Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. I rise to speak briefly on the 2022 floods and the question I asked the Lord Mayor earlier today. It's very apparent to me from the statements the Lord Mayor has made since the floods, even up until today, that he takes no understanding from his role as the lead in the disaster coordination and management for Brisbane City. He failed catastrophically, together with Brisbane City Council, to recognise that a flood had occurred, and now he's leaving the chamber, to recognise that a flood had occurred, to recognise that a disaster was unfolding, and then failed to communicate that to the residents of Brisbane in a timely way. Now, that's not anyone else's fault other than the people who are responsible, which is the Lord Mayor and the local disaster management group and the LDCC. Now, there are other agencies involved in how we respond to disasters without question, and there is fault at many levels. I'm not elected to the state parliament, and it's not my responsibility to hold the state parliament to account for their inaction. Others will be doing that. It is my job in this place, on behalf of the 3,000 plus residents that were flooded, most of whom are still not back in their homes now, to hold this administration to account for its failures during the 2022 flood. Now, from 10:49 on Saturday the 26th of February, I was reporting to the LDCC that houses were flooded right around my ward. It was very clear to me on Saturday morning that a fairly significant event was unfolding. And as per our responsibilities in the council disaster plan, it's our job to report information to the LDCC so that they can take action. I did that. There are 22 emails that I tabled earlier today, including an email to the Lord Mayor at 3 p.m. that afternoon telling him houses were flooded, personally telling him houses were flooded in Oxley. There are 21 other emails for multiple suburbs: Oxley, Corinda, Sherwood, Fairfield, Graceville, Yeronga. I don't know what the LDCC did in respect of most of those emails. I have taken the opportunity to raise them directly with the head of Council's disaster team, and that is a man called Peter Jeffrey, and accompanying him in my office was Tim Wright, the Organisational Divisional Services Manager. Both of them sat in my office with my staff and I and undertook about a month ago now to get back to me with answers to my questions. Firstly, on Monday night I reported an islanded community in Corinda where urgent evacuations were needed. There was just literally no response from council, none at all. On the Monday I also asked for an emergency access gate to be unlocked so that people in Oxley could get out of an islanded and flooded community. There was literally no response from council and the gate was never unlocked. Now, I must have sent hundreds of emails to the LDCC, as I'm sure other councillors did, and I didn't expect all of them to be responded to. but I have raised two specific issues with the two most senior disaster managers in this council, and neither of them have had the courtesy to respond to me in the way that they said they would do. Now, that's about a month ago. I think it's pretty off when we have a review undertaken by Paul de Jersey that says, that council needs to be working more closely with councillors. And you know what's happened? A couple of managers from the LDCC came out, and I talked to them about what I did in the community during the floods, and they didn't even know about local community centres in my area. Didn't even know. It's been an eye-opening thing for them. And then second, the only other contact we've had is the two officers who came to give me the training with the out-of-date manual that still said, I think it was on page 7, that council undertook flood buybacks. That's how out-of-date the manual was that council brought to my office to give me training on, that it was out of date because it still was referring to programs that Brisbane City Council has cancelled. That is what Councillor Wines has stood up here today and said, we're delivering on all our recommendations. I can tell you we are not. Brisbane City Council is supposed to have opened up, or one of the recommendations from the De Jersey review was to open up the Flood Resilient Homes program to all suburbs of Brisbane. So I duly wrote, yes it was, yes it did, I duly wrote to council asking them to consider a property in Yurongpilly that suffers from really ongoing overland flow, and guess what I got back? This program is by invitation only. Invitation to who? Anala residents, Paddington residents, but not people who live in other parts of Brisbane. There are two recommendations in the De Jersey review that indicate that this program should be opened up to all of Brisbane. That is clearly the spirit and intention of those recommendations, clearly. This council is not doing that. This council has not reinstated its flood buyback scheme. It has not done it, and not a single cent is going to be invested in flood buyback by this council. The De Jersey review is supposed to be undertaking consultation with local councillors to support their development of community centres as flood recovery hubs. Once, one council officer came to speak to me. When I asked her for help, for a little bit of funding, not much, she said, no, I'm sorry, we can't. That's the response by this administration. There's only a few councillors in this place who have really catastrophically flooded wards on a regular basis, and I am one of them. I am not seeing support on the ground. Do you know how I found out that I would not be getting a flood-free office, as recommended by Paul de Jersey? I heard Councillor Wines on the radio. I heard him on the radio. An ABC journalist asked him about it, and he waffled on for 5 minutes, and then he goes, no, that councillor won't be getting an office. I thought, how nice of council to write to me and tell me what's happening. To my request, because I'd written to them several weeks earlier and asked what's happening. Nothing. We're not only not getting a flood-free office, we're going to have to use some sort of pop-up facility at the South Regional Business Centre, which, as it happens, didn't flood in 2022, but the site did flood in 2011. I'm not sure any of my staff could even get there because of the way the roads are cut off in the ward. This administration is failing the residents of Brisbane, and today, in this chamber, we can see why. The head is rotting. The Lord Mayor cannot even accept his responsibility for managing a disaster in this city. He cannot even say, yes, the LDC knew it was flooding. Yes, I knew it was flooding. We should have done better. I am sorry. That's where this should be going. Not the Lord Mayor standing up here and saying, oh, the state government's politicising the floods. The only person politicising the floods that I can see is the Lord Mayor. He's blamed the bomb, he blames the state government, he blames the early warning alert system. I mean, he blames everybody. I'm surprised he hasn't blamed me. But he blames everybody when he is the person responsible. And not only is this council not learning from what it did, the same people who've run the flood disaster responses in this city the whole time I've been here are still the same people running the flood responses now. If you keep doing the same thing, you are not going to get a better outcome. You're not going to get a different outcome. I don't understand why this council is not being more consultative. Where is the operational review that this council has done? You know, the other thing that happened, I got sent a few weeks ago, obviously waste was a big problem. The waste bins didn't go out, they were in the wrong locations. We spent days trying to get waste bins. It even got raised on the call with the CEO. Do you know what I got 2 weeks ago? I got the same wrong list that was sent to me that first week back in March, sent out to me again 2 weeks ago. And I did my nana. And yesterday, a lovely young lady from Waste came out and asked me where I wanted the waste bins. But let me be clear, they sent me the same wrong places from 7 months ago. There's no Frederick Street in Tennyson. Do you know how many
Councillor
times I
Johnston,
wrote to
your
council
time
to tell
has expired. Is there
You're not
further general
listening.
business? Councillor Sri Ranganathan.
Thanks, Chair. Just wanted to speak about a couple of issues, and I'll start with the city centre master plan and this whole redesign that includes the Mary Street. And I'm going to try and keep my comments concise, but I do hope that Councillor Murphy and Councillor Allen in particular will attend to this. As you're aware, the consultation started about the Mary Street vision, which includes the wider footpaths, and obviously Space for Cycling is concerned about the absence of dedicated bike lanes along that corridor. I just wanted to highlight that the bus network review is also proposing a significantly larger volume of buses to travel along Mary Street as well. So there is an issue here that I'm concerned the different parts of the administration aren't necessarily talking to each other closely enough, because the dominant approach for the Mary Street vision is that pedestrians and slow-moving e-scooters will use the footpaths and cyclists are expected to use the road. That seems to be the thrust of the Mary Street vision. But if the administration is saying that cyclists are going to use the road on Mary Street, that means that they're riding in the path of those buses. And it's not going to work, just as a matter of common sense, if you have cyclists riding down a major busway corridor. We see the issues on Adelaide Street at the moment, which carries a lot of buses. And if there's one or two bikes riding down the road, they slow down all the buses. It's dangerous for the cyclists. It's inconvenient and stressful for the bus drivers. That's the current situation. We don't want to replicate that on Mary Street. So I don't want to labour the point, but I think the cycling advocacy groups are right to say that we do need separated bike lanes for e-scooters and bikes on Mary Street. And I hope that the Chair of City Planning and the Chair of Transport will take that issue seriously and look into that more closely. I appreciate that at least there is some level of consultation and forward planning, and there's an attempt to engage the community. But it was quite surprising to me in particular to see that there's a lot of extra space being freed up by taking away the street parking, but the council is not using that opportunity to create separated bike lanes. As a matter of common sense, if a road is needed for cars to access local destinations, then that road is also going to be used by cyclists and e-scooters to access local destinations. So I think we do need separated bike lanes on there. I also just wanted to speak again about the Grey Street Park, which has been delivered as part of the Brisbane Metro project, and I wanted to thank Councillor Murphy for allowing his officers to come out and brief me on that. Sorry, it's damning you with faint praise, is that the concern? Anyway, it was good to be able to talk to the officers and unpack what I think should happen with that site. I understand there'll be conversations between the news team and Councillor Davies' staff and then the Metro project. And sorry, I missed that interjection, but thank you. Yeah, sorry, Councillor Davis. And the concern I have is that the Brisbane Metro team's brief has basically been to conceptualise that park space as a transition space, that no one's going to stop there and hang out there. It's just a stopover pocket park between the train station and the Metro Cultural Centre station. But actually that's about we're talking like 700 or 800 square metres, really 1,000 square metres, but I'll say 800 square metres because there's an easement for Queensland Rail. But we're talking about 800 square metres of land right at South Bank, right across from the cultural centre. So that block of land is worth millions and millions of dollars. And I'm sure Councillor Murphy would agree with me that if we own a block of land that's worth millions and millions of dollars right there in the centre of South Bank, we don't want it to just be a transitionary space that people move through, that it's not an efficient use of inner city land to just have a couple of bench seats and say, oh, people are just going to stop here briefly to check their phone while they wait for the train or whatever. We want that space to be usable and activated, and that's why I'm increasingly firm in my view that that is a good space for a skate park. That this is the site at 125 Grey Street, right next to Melbourne Street. I think that there's a lot of interest from the local community for a skate park in that area, and given that it's right next to the train station and not as close to residential homes, that's probably the best spot we can find for a skate park in the area. It's got good casual surveillance, which I know the administration is a bit preoccupied with, and it's not going to be a noise issue because it's right next to the very noisy train station. So I've asked the council officers to seriously look into that, but I know it's going to come back to news eventually, and the news team is going to have some arbitrary rules like, well, we only have skate parks in large recreation parks or in sports parks or whatever, and if they go by the default city planning codes, they're going to say, oh, this probably isn't suitable for a skate park. But actually, in the inner city, this is exactly the sort of space we want for a skate park. It doesn't matter that it's only a 1,000 square metre park without off-street parking. It doesn't matter that a skate park in South Bank doesn't have parking spaces because people won't be driving to use that skate park. They'll be walking or riding their skateboards to get there. So the usual arguments that the council officers might be inclined to mount against a skate park at this location are not compelling and don't apply, but I am just worried that when the Brisbane Metro team and Councillor Murphy's officers refer this over to the news team and Councillor Davis's team, that they're going to say, oh, no, we don't want a skate park there, and it'll just sort of get knocked on the head. But I do hope that the relevant officers will be encouraged to look at that proposal seriously. Like I said, it's a big enough footprint for a small skate park. There's a really strong need for one in the area. It's a suitable location because it's close to other noisy uses and not too close to residential homes. And frankly, I can't think of how else that park is going to be activated because it's 100 metres from South Bank, so no one's going to sit at the corner of Grey Street and Melbourne Street for a picnic when they could just walk over the road to South Bank. And I don't really think we want it to be used as a basketball court because there's going to be risks of basketballs flying onto the road and that sort of stuff. So it's really going to come down to a choice between a no place, a place that just has a couple of bench seats and a couple of trees and nothing else, or a space that does have some trees and some canopy cover and some seating, but also has a facility that can anchor that corner and can help activate that part of the precinct. So I hope the idea is taken seriously. I'm going to directly approach some of the stakeholders like South Bank Corporation myself as well to sort of explain and advocate for that idea, because I appreciate that the administration is going to want to be coming up with a proposal that satisfies some of the other stakeholders in the neighbourhood. But at the end of the day, the biggest stakeholder is the residents of that community. And it would be a mistake for the Brisbane Metro team to let the design of this park be shaped exclusively by QPAC or exclusively by Queensland Rail and whatever the station master at the station wants to happen there. It's not for the Queensland Rail station master to decide how a Brisbane City Council park is designed. It should be for the people of the city to decide. And I'm hearing from a lot of residents in South Bank, South Brisbane, West End area who really want a skate park and who think this would be a suitable location for it. So I hope the administration will work constructively with me on that. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm approaching this in good faith, but I am worried, based on past experiences, that the parks officers will look at their standard codes for a skate park and say, no, we only put skate parks in major metropolitan and district parks, and we only put skate parks where there's off-street car parking, etc., and will simply dismiss the idea because it doesn't meet the standard criteria. And I think that would be a great shame and a missed opportunity. So I look forward to further conversations with the relevant chairs about that.
Thank you. Any further general business? No further general business. I declare this meeting closed. Councillors, we do have the resumption of the meeting of the 13th of September to deal with. We will take a break to allow for the reset of the systems and recommence at approximately 5:10. The bells will ring. Thank you, councillors.